comparison agreement by department request, emergency ordinance, approving the addition of property located at 1301 East 9th Street to the Northeast Ohio Advanced Energy District, accepting and approving a petitioning plan from the property owner district identifying the special improvement project, declaring it necessary to conduct a special energy improvement project, providing for the assessment of the cost of such special energy improvement district, authorizing director of economic development to enter into an energy project cooperative agreement, a special assessment agreement to implement the project, and declaring an emergency. Good morning, Director Brother Bruno, and our KJK.
The Earview Hotel PACE project. I have Bobby Bruno to my right, project manager for the city, joined with Rich Morehouse from KJK, representing KJK, and Andy Wohlschlager with TurnDev. And Bobby, I will let you present the project.
Good morning. To begin, I just wanted to speak briefly about what PACE financing is. Do we have the clicker?
Oh, yeah.
Property assessed clean energy financing, or PACE financing. This is a financing tool for clean energy and energy efficient upgrades to buildings allowed here in the state of Ohio. So this is financing on a property's tax assessment. This is over and above their property taxes rather than through like a traditional banknote. Some of the improvements include energy efficient HVAC, windows and doors, roofing, water conservation, and things above normal standards. So the project, Earview Tower Hotel, the Earview Tower redevelopment has been brought before council for a variety of things. This item is for the PACE financing just for the hotel component, which I believe is floors 9 through 15. And so the hotel, it will be a 210-key W-branded hotel. This project is led by the building owner, Elias Kassouf, and the PACE financing will be provided through Greenworks Lending, LLC. This will be up to $43,881,864, financing over 28 years. And so that financing will be paid back on the property tax bill over and above those existing property taxes. So the lending term is expected to end in 2055. This financing covers improvements like HVAC controls, building envelope, water heating and light fixtures that exceed energy standards that make the building efficient, green, and resilient. And the special assessment, it has been approved by the Advanced Energy District before coming before City Council. This assessment will secure a loan with a semi-annual payment of just under $2 million. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for the presentation. We're all familiar with the Earview Tower project. We saw this 3-4 times along the way, even more. And you mentioned that the PACE is only going to be subject to the W Hotel section on the property.
That is correct, yes.
And that, you said floors 9 through, that's the bottom level, right?
I've got a spread here. So the hotel will be floors 4 through 12. It will also have a restaurant and a bar on levels 38 and 41.
Gotcha. Just out of curiosity, any reason why we didn't put not we, but you all didn't put the hotel rooms further up for the view? I'm just curious about that. Maybe to Mr. Morehouse.
Sure. Thank you. To the chair, the hotel use is deemed to be an inferior use, I guess. You have more transient occupancy, and so therefore, we want to put the more transient occupants on the lower floors and let the folks that would stay there longer, like office users and apartment renters, take advantage of the views, up on the upper floors. We would just get more value doing that, essentially.
Gotcha. And I'm looking at the color, the green is kind of in the middle. So that view is a pretty good view from that middle green floor versus the renovated offices. Now, when most of us toured this place, the blue and red, man, talk about an air show view. That's amazing up there. Okay, I was just curious, but you explained that to me, so no, that makes sense. Okay. Is there any questions from the committee? All right, we're familiar with PACE. We've seen this several times over. We're familiar with the project, and so we thank you for the presentation. Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 1440. Actually, no, we have an amendment. Councilman, if you will review that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to proctor an amendment.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, in section 3, in the first paragraph at line 9, strike, quote, "and previously reported to council and are now on the file of the offices of the clerk of council and the director of finance set forth in the project petition is adopted and confirmed, and that the maximum special assessment and levied assessment on the property," end quote. And in the second paragraph at line 6, strike, quote, "the semi-annual installment of this special assessment shall be collected in each calendar year equal to a maximum semi-annual amount of the special assessment as shown in the project petition," end quote. In the third paragraph in line 2 and 6, strike, quote, unquote, "aggregate," and insert, quote, unquote, "maximum" in both places. In line 8, strike, quote, unquote, "certify a final," and insert, quote, "provide an amended," end quote. In line 9, strike, quote, "which final," end quote, insert, quote, "and the amended," end quote. And in the fifth paragraph, line 3, strike, quote, unquote, "list," and insert, quote, unquote, "schedule."
All right, thank you for the amendment. Do we have the motion? Do we have a second? Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? See no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. All right, seeing no further additional questions, ordinance number 1440-2025 as amended stands approved. Thank you so much. All right.
All right.
Yes, sir. Here you go. All right, ordinance number 1321-2025 by Councilmember Slife, an emergency ordinance designating Old John Marshall High School building as a Cleveland landmark. Trying to preempt that demolition? I shouldn't say that, huh? Too soon? Okay, too soon. Good morning, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. All right.
I'm Jessica Beam, the Cleveland Landmarks Commission.
Yes.
I'm here today to present our Old John Marshall High School building, located at 15149 Lorraine Avenue. Proposes ordinance 1321-2025. Designation is presented at the request of Ward 17 Councilmember Slife. It's located at the corner of Lorraine Avenue and today's West 152nd. Brief background of the neighborhood of West Park is needed to kind of describe this impactful building. In 1807, Township Number 7, Range 14, sold to land developers. And in 1819, the name Rockport Township was coined. As the area developed, significant stagecoach, rail, and streetcar lines went through along crossing Lorraine Avenue. As future cities incorporated around it, the Rockport Special School District constructed District School Number 1 by 1867, located just west of today's Triscuit Road. High school classes were held on the second floor, along with municipal offices located in the building. By 1880, there were 4 primary schools in the general West Park area, but no separate secondary school. District School Number 1 eventually became the town hall and jail until it was damaged and sold, and a new town hall was built in the 1910s in that same location. In today's West Park neighborhood, the area we're focusing on was organized as Rockport Hamlet in 1892. A new secondary school was called Central High School, constructed in 1899. This is the start of our landmark building. This was a 4-room, 2-story masonry structure built in the popular Victorian and Gothic architectural elements. Cost schools around $8,000, which would have been a little over $300,000 today. The Rockport Special School District did not have a set district architect.
That, just,
Yeah.
that's the cost to build?
Yes,
Wow, okay, all right,
for the
yes.
4-room, 2-story masonry building, yeah.
Only 300,000 today.
Yeah. Steel. Yeah. No, you're good. So they didn't have a set architect. They hired out local firms. The school plans for this building were announced to be found in the office of E.J. Schellentrager, but it is not clear if his architectural firm, Century Architectural Company, was involved. That firm was well-known in the Cleveland area for their residential construction. They had books produced like this one that goes into their beautiful residential designs. Not so much schools either, but maybe they designed a school. So this 1899 building is still standing, although not easily recognizable, with the various additions added over time. Pictured side view of today's old John Marshall High School building will show the additions over time as we move through the presentation. The remaining elements of that first school can still be seen in the middle section of the current building, with clear changes as they added more windows, door openings, as the needs for the school changed over time. The name of the school was changed to Lincoln High School sometime around 1905, and then Rockport Village High School is also used. The area itself switched back between the names of Rockport Village and the Village of West Park a few times in the early 1900s. In 1910, a rear addition was added, designed by Cleveland architectural firm Bonnard & Parson. They added in the same style as the original. New fire escapes were added to the sides of the building for additional emergency exits, and the school is also renamed West Park High School, or West Park Lincoln High School. And additional land was purchased behind the school for further expansion. At this time, the Village of West Park continued expanding, and the City of West Park was established in 1921. So still continued on. A bit about the architects for two of the additions. William A. Bonnard and Raymond Parson were principals of the architecture firm Bonnard & Parson. They were loosely connected to the Century Architectural Company that designed the first part of the school. And their particular firm was active between 1905 and 1932. They were located on Euclid Avenue in downtown Cleveland. Both architects left their mark on Cleveland, wider, Northeast Ohio communities. In West Park, they also designed the replacement town hall, known as the First District Police Station in the 1910s, which was demolished in the early 2000s. And a Cleveland landmark, Fellowship Baptist Church of Christ, or Grace Evangelical Lutheran Church, located on East 55th Street, was designed by that firm. West Park High School's numbers began to hit the double digits in the 19-teens. That coincided with additional building expansions. So they added onto the front of the building in 1916. The addition may have been designed by the same firm that designed the rear addition, but it had classical architectural elements like a bell tower, pedimented entry, dentil molding in the cordons, and wider rounded arch windows. In 1919, a separate gymnasium in the rear was constructed with a covered archway connecting it to the main building. And even with the additions, the school did not have enough space. The population in West Park continued to grow, and so the athletic field by 1922 was taken over by the addition of portable classrooms. Portable classrooms were not intended for permanent use, but ended up on the property being used by the school for another decade. 1923 was a busy year. The city of West Park was annexed into the city of Cleveland in 1923, and West Park High School was renamed John Marshall High School to fit the naming tradition of Cleveland schools. The central bell tower was removed from the building, and the roof was put on. They added a library for the first time in the building, as well as exterior fire alarm boxes. The library was then removed a few years later to add space for classrooms and offices. In that case, the students would walk to the new West Park Library, which was finished in 1925, which was a bit of a closer walk than the half mile they would walk to the athletic fields, which were located down Lorraine behind Washington School. They added even more additional classrooms to the rear of the site between 1929 and 1931. And due to the overcrowding and expansion of the neighborhood use of the school, they announced a new school located on West 140th Street. The new John Marshall High School began construction in 1930. It opened in 1932. It was designated as a Cleveland landmark in 2005, but demolished in 2013 for the construction of a new John Marshall campus, which was completed in 2015. Still standing. So this is the now known old John Marshall High School. It was permanently closed as a school in 1932. The portable classrooms on the back of the property were auctioned off, some of them going for $150 to $200. Today's money, that'd be about $4,000 for those little portable classrooms. Newspapers in the 1930s discussed the possible use as housing, storage, anything else they could use the property for. One partially realized use of the building was by the YMCA. The West Park branch of the YMCA was formally organized in the 1930s, and they used the gym and cafeteria buildings on the site. The Cleveland Board of Education sold the building to the Young Men's Christian Association of Cleveland in 1944. Initially, they planned to renovate the building, but instead sold it to build their new building, just a block or so away, which happened in 1946, and so their new building was designated in 1957. Following the sale, a new use was put into Old John Marshall High School with the introduction of Leopold's Furniture. So Leopold Brothers Furniture, or Leopold's Fine Furnishings, as it's known today, began in 1859 with Henry Leopold establishing his first store at Lorraine Avenue in West 33rd, in the Ohio City neighborhood. He made furniture for Cleveland shipbuilders, homes and businesses, and caskets. He moved twice to other locations along Lorraine, and eventually moved to what was once deemed the largest furniture store in Cleveland by 1906. In the 1940s, the family business decided to move west, so they purchased this building, turned it into Leopold's. They kept the high school classrooms because it created a unique shopping experience for their clients. So Leopold's did not need the back of the property, and so that area was split off, and new housing ideas were proposed in the 40s and 50s. There was a lot split done with separate zoning of retail along Lorraine, residential down West 152nd, and 4 new apartment buildings were built in the late 1950s where the original gym and athletic fields were. And those are still standing today. As Leopold's changed and life changed in Cleveland, they wanted to make their building fit with their new business needs. So they added an additional 5,000 square feet to the front of the building with a one-story addition, as well as additional parking on the front. This is kind of that change of car-centered architecture that we see in the 1950s and 60s. They also expanded further, and in the 1970s opened a second location in Brecksville. In 1986, they closed the Cleveland location and are still in the Brecksville location today. And so once closed, they sold the site to Bill Lake Buick. Between 1986 and 2013, the site was primarily used for car sales or affiliated with car dealerships or just an auxiliary parking or storage for cars. The main building was closed up, boarded, and became overgrown with ivy, and any leftover lawn was just turned into parking. In 2013, however, the building sold again, and the front addition was reopened as Glass Block headquarters. The new owners began to take care of the building, replace some windows, or they introduced Glass Block into many of the original window openings. Updates and maintenance was taken on the building once again. 2019, it was reopened as the Wash House and Cafe, with a small addition added to the east side of the 1961 addition for accessibility. Building and site improvements have been made over the past decade, and many of the window openings have new windows installed. There's also been minimal changes to the historic school building footprint and exterior beyond just window and door additions. So Old John Marshall High School building has been nominated under the criteria that it exemplifies the heritage of Cleveland and West Park in particular, and the location and building represent a familiar and long-standing feature in the neighborhood. The school additions are representative of typical institutional architecture of the time, and its most recent large addition is representative of the shift to more car-focused architecture and adaptations to the building as it evolves with the owner's needs. It is particularly significant as one of the last remaining municipal or educational buildings that predates the annexation and the city of West Park being established. The development and growth of the school building is a study in the growth and development of this corner of Cleveland that we know now as the West Park Camps Corners neighborhood, and designating the building as a Cleveland landmark will solidify and preserve the wide-ranging history of the building that's continued to provide resources to the neighborhood, first as a school for 30-plus years, and then on to a home for local businesses to adapt and grow for over 40 years and counting, telling the story of the development of the West Park neighborhood. So that might be the last slide. No. The Cleveland Landmarks Commission nominated the building in January of this year, and they held a public hearing regarding the designation on August 14th. Along with Councilman Slife support, a representative from the West Park Historical Society spoke on the significance and history of the building, supporting the designation. At that time, the owner and an owner's representative both spoke about the effort and work put into the building and concerns about a possible burden created by landmarking, and they were in opposition to the nomination. After hearing comments and support and opposition, the Cleveland Landmarks Commission moved to continue the designation process and went through the City Planning Commission on November 7th. And so here we are. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Again, another very thorough presentation by you and your team, always. You know, we haven't seen Carl much. What's going on with that? All right. Not that we don't like you
I'm
all.
going to change it up a little bit.
Absolutely, understood.
You'll see him
Understood.
soon. You'll see him
Okay.
very soon.
This line of work, and just like the consistency of.
Absolutely.
You'll see him very soon.
Thank you, thank you. No, again, you said who was opposed to the designation?
The owner.
The owner of it, okay, okay. All right, sounds good. Councilman Slife?
Yes. So, first of all, thank you for the thorough presentation. There are only 2 landmarks in Ward 17 to date, so it's been a joint goal of the Neighborhoods Historical Society and me to increase that number. We have not gone through the work I think we maybe should have to honor the neighborhood's history, and I think we're thought of as maybe a newer part of the city. So maybe it's just time to start realizing that this is an opportunity. One, to just honor the history of the neighborhood, but also as we start looking for ways to encourage property owners to continue to invest in their properties, introducing the opportunity for state historic tax credits is something that comes with the landmarks designation, and I think that's valuable. I really want to, I am very grateful to the property owner. As you can see from the progression of the pictures, the property did start to go the wrong direction for a number of years, and I think credit is owed to them for having restored it. There's a successful business in there. I believe there's, you know, an opportunity for even some housing in the old school building. It is already in a design review district, so I don't view this as burdensome beyond what we already have for the property. Additionally, and I'm only saying this, we all know this, but saying this for the record, this designation does not compel any action for the property owner to change anything about the building. It is merely an alternate version of the design review district it's already in that allows them to have access to historic tax credits, while also recognizing that this building, while it may not be recognizable from its earliest stages in 1899, does speak to the neighborhood's history. And I'll just close by saying it's been interesting throughout this, because every time we say the old John Marshall, Chairman, people react as you did, of thinking about John Marshall on 140th, lack of even recognition in the neighborhood that this is in fact at 152nd, the original John Marshall, and that's a story of West Park for us to continue to tell. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on the legislation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman. Any questions or comments from the committee? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question. I feel like we're looking at the ship of Theseus here. Like, on page 20, I'm going to bounce back and forth between 21 and 20. And so here's the question. The 1899 construction, which is the second from the bottom when you look overhead on page 20, right? No, you're going.
Oh,
You were real close. You were only one away at the beginning. Keep going. Down. Up. Okay,
yeah,
right there.
yep.
The 1899.
Yep.
Okay, that's the original building.
yes.
Is the original face of that building facing up and east or down and west?
Through the chair to the councilman, it is facing Lorraine. So it originally faced on Lorraine with a
It
beautiful
did?
front lawn. Yeah.
So when they added the additions, they added the additions to the side of the building. So in the 1899 photo, if you go down one slide, okay, there it is on the left side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's facing Lorraine. So when they added on, if you go back up to the previous slide, that's the original building in the middle, right there, in sort of the middle of those 3 clear constructions. I'm
Through the
just trying to
chair,
figure this out, right?
where the flat roof is?
This is the original building right here,
Yes.
and that was the face of the building, which is,
No, that picture's taken from West 152nd.
oh, this is,
Yeah.
okay, so the front of the building is here.
No, the front of the building is up in the left picture.
Well, now it is.
Yeah.
That's-
That's,
That's always where the front's been faced.
yeah, we're looking this way here and this way in the second picture.
What's the front of the building look like today? Which one is it?
The bottom right.
Yeah,
Okay, with the addition on, okay, okay.
a couple additions.
Okay, but that's not facing the rain. Oh, is that, oh, that is? Oh, okay. Now I get it. I was 90 degrees off the entire time, and now I see it. That's all. Thanks, Mr. Chair, for
right.
indulging my confusion.
Oh, no problem.
Makes
no.
sense.
Listen, we appreciate it. Thank you, Councilman Harsh. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing no further questions, 1321-2025 stands approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
They have to add it on to the back.
And the front.
In the front.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about building one of my houses like that.
I'll have the book upstairs.
All right, ordinance number 1226-2025 by council members Harrison and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to rename the Department of Economic Development to the Department of Development by adding the title to Chapter 144 and various codified ordinances to amend sections 144.02 as amended by ordinance number 1655-80, passed July 31st, 1980, relating to the director's duties, to enact new section 144.021 to establish a new office to amend 18.3.021 as amended by ordinance number 837-2017, passed August 16, 2017, relating to the land reutilization programs to establish a new special revenue fund and to authorize the hiring of an additional employee. Chief Director, your team, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Here today to discuss with you what I think is one of the more meaningful pieces of legislation that I've been a part of in my time here in City Hall. Very excited about, and so have a number of us here with us this morning, including Taylor Jones from my office, Joe Rose Bordeaux Small, Director of Economic Development, David Lucas, who's the Deputy Director for Business Growth in the Department of Economic Development, Jennifer Scheel, who is the Executive for Business Attraction in the Department of Economic Development, as well as Trudy Andrzejewski, who is the current Bureau Chief for Neighborhood Revitalization in the Department of Community Development. And here today to talk about a reorganization within the integrated development cluster that would create new Department of Development. So want to start roughly with kind of an overview of what we're talking about here. Obviously, we're going to get into the details of this quite a bit, but what this would do, why is this this is not the most recent. That's okay. We'll keep rolling. I think it's close. This will change the name of the Department of Economic Development to the Department of Development. This will amend director powers within both that new department as well as in community development. That is largely related to the fact that in the Department of Community Development, there are multiple land banks, right? The land bank within community development is authorized through that director, right? So we need to clean that up. There will be the ability for blanket transfer of all surplus land into the appropriate land bank. And I think that is important to note in that there are multiple land banks within the city of Cleveland, right? The city land bank, quote unquote, is primarily residential parcels. There is an industrial commercial land bank in the Department of Economic Development. And by state law, you actually have to keep those things separate, right? So there will not be kind of a massive combined land bank, and it allows us to start transferring properties into the appropriate one there. This will allow the transfer of 18 existing staff positions from community development into that new Department of Development using their existing federal funding sources, right? So we're trying to minimize impact on the general fund budget. So if an employee is federally funded today, they'll be federally funded tomorrow. And then this will create a new headcount for a Deputy Director of Land Strategy within that department. That is important because we think it is vitally important to begin to market that position now, right? We all know it'll take a few months to hire somebody, so that does have kind of one new headcount on the 2025 budget, which allows us to start that process. The other additions that we'll talk about are funded through the 2026 budget. Also very important to to know what this legislation does not do. This does not change land bank policy, right? This does not change council oversight or authority related to land bank policy, and want to make clear that that is not a conversation that we're looking to have today, right? This is just talking about where certain functions are administered from. And we'll come back to the budget later on in this, but I want to note that this didn't come out of thin air, right? This was really an outgrowth of the 10-year operational strategic plan that the city of Cleveland went into. I think it is important to note that there were a variety of options under consideration as they went through that process. That was led by Ernst & Young, right? There was a lot of process around that, including engagement with members of council, focus groups, right? A lot went into the formation of that plan. They explored all kinds of different options surrounding this, including models like the Boston Planning Area and Development Agency, where they combine planning, economic development, community development. Some of you may know that the Department of Economic Development was actually spun out of the Department of Community Development. I believe that was done in 1987 under the Voinovich administration. So obviously looking at just recombining those two departments in whole. And what they ended up landing on was the idea that you can see that kind of consolidates real estate functions into a singular department, which ultimately leaves us then, I think with a pretty manageable 40-ish person department of City Planning Commission, a roughly 50-ish person department of development, and then a roughly 50 or 60 person department in community development, which we can talk about going in. So a lot of thought went behind that. And then I want to, Taylor Jones, who's here with us, did just an astronomical amount of work, I think, over the past year or so in really kind of helping pull a lot of this together. So I want to give her some space to talk about that process that we went through and kind of how we ended up with the structure that you will see in a little bit.
Thanks, Chief. Good morning, everybody. So I want to spend a little bit of time building off of that Ernst & Young presentation and that operational strategic plan that included this recommendation to consolidate all of our real estate functions and talk about how we manage the decision to move forward with this initiative with staff and attempted to find ways to meaningfully involve them. When that operational strategic plan dropped, I feel that it was pretty jarring for many of the impacted staff members to see it presented in that way and to learn about the potential for this course of action in a very broad document without a lot of formal engagement. And so when I got involved with this process about a year ago, it was really, really critically important for all of us to figure out a way to have staff be engaged and involved with the organizational structure that we were seeking to build. And there were a couple of different buckets that we engaged staff. So the first one was this bucket about strategic direction. So in September of 2024, we had a strategic planning workshop that involved not just managers that were touching real estate disposition, acquisition, and dealing with development, but also leadership, so chiefs and directors. And it was really important in that meeting for us to define priorities, our values for land, an early strategic direction, and the guiding principle of that was like, what do our neighborhoods need that meaningful development in our assets in real estate can provide? And this also gave insight to the structure that we were looking to build because it allowed us to see that we had a lot of alignment about why we're doing what we're doing, how we should be doing it, but there was still this gap of like who has capacity to drive these initiatives forward and who should be empowered to drive these initiatives forward. And as a springboard off of that, we continue to have these engagements with managers that were touching development in any way from the Department of Economic Development, from Community Development, and from MOCAP, who were meeting biweekly in this real estate working group that allowed us to kind of surface pain points, surface opportunities for more intentional process improvement, for collaboration across silos, et cetera. And it also kind of began to provide this proof of concept of what it would look like if all of these people were able to work together intentionally and not try to navigate a system where they were trying to find ways to partner their projects in a system that was not designed to allow them to do that. And as the shape of this organizational restructure kind of came into play, we also wanted the perspectives of the staff that were kind of in the weeds doing the work every day to shape how we wanted to organize this new Department of Development. So we had 8 focus groups with impacted staff, primarily staff from the Department of Community Development, and have also had these ongoing one-on-ones where we talk about and have discussed the work that people are doing now, where they see the most challenges in their work in a perfect, ideal world, how they would organize the work that they do, how they would interact with other departments. And I think that this not only allowed us to solicit meaningful and very important feedback, but also was able to kind of course correct that jarring feeling that most people had when this idea first was brought to the table, and kind of supported morale as we deal with a lot of transition. The last thing is this bucket about process improvements. So that real estate working group, like I said, was really, really critical in surfacing challenges and opportunity, and a part of that was figuring out where there were gaps in our technical capacity to do good work. And so staff input really allowed us to inform the scoping of the CRM requirements and the technology build that we're engaged in now with Salesforce. And we continue to do process improvement workshops in collaboration with Urban AI, where we're able to map current workflows and also ideal future state workflows that have all really been super, super powerful inputs as we have thought about the ultimate organizational structure. And so even though all of those conversations, all of that feedback, all of that planning was super helpful, as I mentioned earlier, it still identified that there were a lot of gaps in our ability to do good work, and it signaled the importance of finding more meaningful ways for us not to just technically be better, but also to collaborate more effectively, and we needed to build a foundation to do that. So we've made a lot of really significant investments in our technological ecosystem by getting Salesforce. And like I said, that's really foundational. Something that has kind of been a guiding principle is that we are a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that was trying to do business on spreadsheets, which is not the most effective thing for us to do. So Salesforce is going to lay that foundation with the supplement of our Acela upgrades, with the supplements of DocuSign, for us to just be a modern city and to be more approachable when it comes to doing business. However, the thing that we've seen is that still, Salesforce can only be optimized to the extent that we give it a process and a structure and a backbone that really maximizes our shared strategy. It allows us to really optimize all our resources. And in the absence of that, we are going to continue to leave value on the table. We're not going to provide the service that we seek to provide. And most importantly, we're not going to be able to achieve the growth that we need. We're not going to be able to stabilize our neighborhoods, and we're not going to be able to build the thriving communities that we all seek to see.
Okay, so why are we looking at doing this? I think point blank system is not working, right? I think everyone here knows that. I've had so many conversations with you over the course of times where it's like, why is it so hard for us to accomplish A, B, or C? Why does it take so long to get these things done? Right, and there was a moment when they brought the directors of the 6, because there are 6 different departments that touch real estate, into a room to talk about that Ernst & Young strategic plan. I think I'd been at City Hall for all of about 3 weeks, right? And they said, here's what we're looking to do, and we want to consolidate this, and we want to put it in economic development. And everyone just kind of turned and looked at me, which was super comfortable, right? And I said, listen, I think ultimately, this is an opportunity for us to, this isn't about losing something. This is about creating something that I think can be more impactful. And as somebody who worked outside of this building for nearly 15 years, kind of helping to move a lot of these things around, if you burn this place to the ground, there's a negative 400% chance that you would set it up the way that it's set up today. That has happened over the course of decades, right? But if you look at it, right, we all know this. It's like the land, the incentives, the approval, it goes across too many different departments. It's 6 of them altogether. Those processes are disconnected, overlapping contexts that shuffle people all over City Hall, and there's no unified way to manage all of those incentives, right? Disposition is different in community development. That is different from how it happens in the Mayor's Office of Capital Project. That is different than the way it happens in economic development, which creates massive amounts of confusion, right? So again, that makes it difficult both outside of City Hall, but it also makes it difficult inside of City Hall. It makes it difficult for council as well. This is what that starts to look like in a chart, right? So you actually have 2 separate chief structures. You have 2 different land banks. You have 3 different departments that are doing acquisition and disposition, right? It gets it very hard to even get to a quick no, right? There was one project that I was involved in that had been going on for 6 months before I got here that lasted another year before there could be a final decision on how to handle things. That's what happens when you have things in multiple decision-making trees, so to speak. So, how do we find a way to streamline a lot of this stuff? And so what are our goals and objectives here that we are trying to move forward? So one, making a more clear front door. So for people that are looking for land and incentives from the city of Cleveland, right, you now have a singular place where you're going to move those forward. Increased accountability, like I said, creating something with a singular decision-making tree. To me, this is ultimately about comprehensive neighborhood revitalization, right? And so by putting all of these tools in one place, right, like, and this is, I've talked to several of you, it's like, think about like a commercial main street in your ward. Pick an intersection on that. You will now have in one place the ability to say, all right, we want to take a look at these buildings over here. Maybe we want to use a storefront renovation program to bring a couple of these back. We now also have the tools in one place to go incentivize or help some small businesses in that area. There might be some vacant land on that commercial corridor that you want to acquire and look for making a part of a larger RFP, but you'll also now be able to look at the residential streets that surround that, look at those residential lands, draw a quarter-mile radii around it, and have the project management in-house to kind of handle all of that, right? Like, that is very powerful, and I think that gets to the point of actually empowering employees to do this type of meaningful work. Too often I feel like people, like, my job is to check this box. You don't see how it all fits together, right? But when you pull these tools together, like, you're actually giving meaningful work for people to help move forward, which I think is incredibly powerful. And then this really does allow us to start strategically looking at land use in the city of Cleveland. Right, so reminded all the time that this isn't about Charlie Slife selling a singular piece of property for maximum value. It's like, what is driving civic value? How do we start looking at land differently? And this gives us the ability to really start doing that. If you look at impact that we're looking for, and this is directly out of that strategic plan, efficient resource utilization. So again, it's about taking those shared resources and expertise to create that operational efficiency, right? That is the combining of those tools together, but then also that enhanced efficiency in transaction-related activities. That's what we're talking about, streamlining all real estate processes so that it's all the same and there's only one way of doing things. And then this is, when we think about the departments that fall under the integrated development cluster that exists here, to me, this is thinking about how we rebalance and re-envision the work that those folks do. So obviously you've got your Department of Building and Housing that is primarily focused on the regulation, preservation, right, through code enforcement, building preservation that goes on, planning, which kind of controls your overarching vision. Community development, and I have had this conversation quite a bit with members of the community development team up there. I think that there are a lot of changes that are going on within that department, and I continue to kind of send the message, like, that department is critically important. They do very meaningful and important work for the city of Cleveland. That doesn't change, right? I spent nearly 15 years. I come out of the city of Cleveland's economic development ecosystem. I spent nearly 15 years doing that kind of neighborhood revitalization work, and I would always say that, like, Ohio City was the overnight success story, 60 years in the making, right? This is a department that I think is really focused on those neighborhood stabilization activities and home repair, wealth building, wealth empowerment, land trust, right? There's a lot of policy things that I feel like this body wants to get involved in, and I feel like they can be a great partner, working through other partner organizations to move it forward. And, ultimately, I think we've also talked so much, because HUD dollars all fell into that department, it meant that they were doing everything, right? And so I think this gives a real opportunity to work with the team in community development to focus work in ways that they can do something really well and kind of remove these kind of building pieces out of it, which then leaves a Department of Development that is truly focused on implementation. And if I think about that in like the little kid terms of things, it's like if we have a coloring book that is going on here, it's like you have your planning and community development that are almost like drawing the lines that one gets to color in. You get Department of Development that kind of fills in colors in those lines, and then Building and Housing can say, nope, got to stay within the lines, right? So, again, it is a way to distribute power throughout these 4 different departments and really get them and force them to work together in ways that hasn't been done in a long time, which I think can work exceptionally well. And with that, you know, as we kind of go into the meat of what this department looks like, again, just synopsis of what we're doing here. Essentially, we are just taking the Housing Development Office, the Land Bank Office, and the Asset Redevelopment Office out of the Department of Community Development, bringing them into Economic Development to create this new Department of Development. Within there, there'll be a new Office of Land Strategy, which you'll see how that is articulated. And we are taking the function of excess property disposition out of the Mayor's Office of Capital Project, right? We are not taking staff out of there because we do not intend for the Department of Development whatsoever to manage existing city assets, right? That will function as it does today. Again, this is a more strategic approach. That's 18 staff positions that are involved in that. 14 are currently filled. And then there are 5 new positions that are being created within this Department of Development that we think will drive it more efficiently. But to kind of walk you through what this department looks like, you know, Director Bordeaux Small was actually my first hire in the Department of Economic Development, who came on board and helped me think through quite a bit what a restructured Department of Economic Development would look like to help become more efficient, help drive more growth into neighborhoods, and was a big thought partner as well as thinking about how, as we create a Department of Development, how that can dovetail into what's been happening in ED, and give her the space to talk through that.
Thank you. Yeah, this slide represents something that I'm actually very, very proud of. When Director McNair walked into the department, I think there were 8 people focused on major projects, business attraction, incentives, small business support, neighborhood revitalization. That's just not enough folks. And so we, you know, the team was operating with heart, but there was a serious lack of capacity. And also a lack of structure to really, you know, serve the city. And so our first reorg, as you see here, it was very intentional. It was set up to establish clear structure, specialization, accountability, and clear lines of responsibility. So you have the neighborhood revitalization team, you have the leadership team, the major projects team, the business growth and site development team, and then the administrative and operations team that kind of supports all those teams to make sure that they're working cohesively. So, you know, this first reorg, it allowed us to grow from 8 to 28 members. You know, it brought us to a more modern, a more functional standard, but it also shed light to a lot of the limitations of our operations. And I think that kind of led us and really affirmed the work that we're presenting today. So this slide captures our evolution into the Department of Development. So we've aligned the 6 pillars, right? Neighborhood revitalization, major projects, operations, business growth, land strategy, and leadership, which were all essentially fragmented across multiple departments. We're bringing them together to create a single clear pathway for development, going from land to incentives to project execution and compliance. So for the first time, we'll have land strategy, business growth, major projects under one team. And that alignment allows for predictability, clarity, and speed, all things that our residents, our businesses, our developers, you know, and our partner organizations need to succeed. So what you see here is the leadership structure that we've put together that really allows the department to function effectively. So we've built a bench of deputy directors responsible for major projects, business growth, neighborhood revitalization, land strategy, which ensures that, you know, the decision-making that Chief McNair was talking about, right, that it moves quickly, that issues surface early, and that, you know, every portfolio has a dedicated executive, you know, oversight. So the Deputy Director of Land Strategy is the new role that will be, and it's in red because to indicate that that's the new role that's being created as a part of this legislation. We also work, what's highlighted there as well is the two roles in green, Rhonda Brown and Marvin Owens, who work in the mayor's office, who we collaborate with a lot. And then Izzy Stewart in communications, who helps us with our marketing efforts and our marketing strategy that we're currently working on to help kind of spread the word on the things that we're doing with the department and essentially allow for access to our resources and awareness. Also highlighted there, and I'll actually go through those two other roles in future slides, but the contracts and compliance manager is a role that I'm really excited about, that kind of really help create more efficiencies within the team, and again, I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then the special projects manager, and that role is really to help us be more flexible and really kind of put a stamp on collaboration within the multiple departments in the building. So the operations team, historically, our project managers handled projects from cradle to grave, right? They handled the leads, they walked them all the way through, they handled the closings, they handled disbursements, they handled payments, right? And so it wasn't an efficient, effective process. It allowed for a lot of errors. And so what we decided to do was to separate the kind of stages of a project out. And that led to the creation of this, what I call the post-closing team, but the contracts and compliance team. They're the backbone of our department. They're there to manage fiscal stewardship, regulatory compliance, contracting, loan administration, and TIF management. So the two roles in red, that is really a function of like adding capacity to this team as we're bringing on the land strategy team. And then the compliance inspector that's indicated in that light blue is light blue because it will actually be funded by federal dollars, so it's not general fund dollars.
Which one of the 18?
Sorry?
That's one of the 18.
Yes, it's one of the 18. Our neighborhood revitalization team. This team, again, a team that I'm really proud of. This team operates as our front door. There are 6 neighborhood investment managers that are assigned to a region of the city. They are boots on the ground. They're, you know, responsible for building relationships with business owners, really becoming intimately familiar with the commercial corridors in their neighborhood, to help kind of bring that feedback and that insight that we need to better serve the businesses and the neighborhoods right to our department. We also, as a part of this team, have the storefront renovation program that was recently moved from CD to ED, from CDBG dollars to general fund dollars to allow for more flexibility and to be a more effective tool. A year ago, in 2024, we were able to serve 49 small businesses, and in just a year of this structure being in place, we've been able to triple that amount. We've served and been able to provide incentives to 152 small businesses in this past year. And I will actually hand this over to Trudy to kind of talk about why this is, why the structure works.
Awesome, thanks, Director. I'll frame, and thank you, Council, nice to see everyone. I'll frame a little bit of my perspective as one of the team members and leaders transitioning by just sharing a little bit about how much I look forward to this opportunity to build capacity and also efficiency around taking generally what I consider a much more proactive approach to our work in land activation, land disposition, and overall land use in action, that implementation piece of how we put policy on the ground. So just a little bit of framing that to start, with the land strategy piece, we do envision strong collaboration with our cluster partners in planning and CD to inform what that land activation looks like and really ensure that land is being put into productive reuse that first is better defined, and secondly, actually advances our broader city goals. And I think about those as, supporting our existing residents, creating attainable neighborhood housing. It's also around that business piece of increasing the number of Cleveland jobs that provide family-sustaining wages, and around climate resiliency. And using our land more effectively, I really believe, can help us make great strides in supporting and creating the Cleveland that we and our neighbors want to see. So I look forward to how this can help us really get there. The Land Strategy Office will include 2 offices that I've had the opportunity to lead over the past year and a half, which is the Land Bank Office and the Asset Redevelopment Office. And it also adds critical capacity to enable us to better serve residents as well as business and nonprofit entities. I'll walk through this org chart for the land strategy team from left to right. So starting with our legacy land bank office, which is a way that I get to interact with most of you on a regular basis. So we'll formally have a land bank manager in place, which has been missing for quite a while now, and before that was very much in flux. So looking forward to that. We'll also expand the existing team from 3 team members to 5. This land bank office will remain our critical front door to direct work with residents and partners who are looking to invest in their neighborhoods through land transactions. With increased capacity, we'll be able to do more than keeping the wheels turning like we have been. We're already drafting new program areas focused on matters like neighborhood stewardship. I think of that as, a resident who lives on the same block, Councilwoman Santana, I know we've talked about this a few times, who may not be the adjacent owner, but really want to activate a land or steward the land that's a few doors down. Will reevaluate opportunities to promote owner-occupied housing development in a way that we haven't historically. And then we'll also be making our bread and butter transactions just flat out easier. So the ability to really add capacity to that team can't overstate how excited I am about it. We'll have a real estate attorney dedicated specifically to our work. As you know, every real estate transaction we do requires a legal instrument to be prepared, notarized, recorded. So having an attorney as part of our team will dramatically assist our efficiency, but also I think our resourcefulness in enabling even the more nuanced transactions to cross the finish line, which is something that has been tricky when something's a little bit more out of the box. I'm also thinking big picture about this role, how the attorney can support our interest in more deeply exploring pricing models, and also thinking about state policy around land disposition. So excited for that one. Just quickly, the last 2, we'll have a data and mapping team that guides our site assembly functions and is a direct conduit to those partners in planning and community development to really put that policy into place that I mentioned before. This will include mapping where our land holdings are. We already know where our TOD zones are, but how can we visualize that in a way that helps us strategize around broader neighborhood investments, commercial corridors, et cetera. And I think it really is important to visualize our work both from a strategy perspective and from a communication and storytelling perspective. And so this team will be our lead in that realm. And then lastly, the head of urban redevelopment strategy will lead what we now know as the current Asset Redevelopment Office. This is the work around redevelopment RFPs, RFQs, open bids, things like that, that we've had the opportunity to work with many council members on. We'll grow from 1 full-time staff member in that office to a leader with 4 team members who are creating those proactive real estate development opportunities in neighborhoods. We'll add a real estate analyst analyst, and this team member will help us with things like market valuations and, importantly, be our lead on tracking forfeitures, properties that are kind of in limbo, and see what we can do as far as incorporating those into our more impactful projects. So I wanted to wrap just really quickly to take an opportunity to say it's been such an honor to work with the existing land bank and asset redevelopment teams, and I am really energized by the opportunity that we can kind of realize all the potential that this could unlock, expanding both capacity, expanding skill sets to help us do our work better, especially in areas where we've seen gaps, and then also being amongst a broader team who can collaborate and implement alongside us. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy. This slide really represents the heart of Cleveland's economic competitiveness. This slide represents a combination of the major projects team and the business growth team. They combined manage both our largest, most complex real estate projects and our business attraction, retention, and expansion strategy. And so all the positions in light blue are positions that we are adding to the major projects team. The thought is that this team will not only serve as project managers for commercial projects, but also for residential projects. So they will be cross-trained to be able to provide service for both. I mean, I can't emphasize enough the importance of this team and the collaboration between both the major projects team and business growth. To my right, David Lucas and Jennifer Scheel have been brought onto the team to really help attract investment and protect and grow our job base, and to ensure that we have predictable systems for companies to look to build and expand and to relocate here in Cleveland. And so I will have David and Jennifer kind of expand on that.
Thank you, Director. Good morning, everybody. So we wanted to just share a little bit about our business growth strategy. That's a tie-in. It's not part of the legislation before you all today, but it's a tie-in to the reorg that we think is worthy of just providing the update. So I focus on business retention and expansion. That's where we feel our business growth strategy should begin, is with the companies that are already here. And the way we'll go about that is by focusing on targeted and proactive relationship management with our city's biggest employers as well as mid-market companies. And I'll define that for you all. So mid-market companies we can, I guess, loosely defined as revenues between 10 million and 100 million, or about 30 to 300 employees. The reason why we're going to target that segment with our proactive efforts is because that's where a bulk of job growth occurs. And that's where the economic development ecosystem can have the biggest influence. The larger firms tend to just, they're not as driven by public policy or public incentives as mid-market companies are. And I want to highlight proactive in this part of the strategy because the city of Cleveland has never really gone on offense with retaining our companies. I guess what that could look like is just because meetings, sitting down with our largest companies, meeting them where they are, finding out what's going well, maybe what are some opportunities that we can add value to the company that might promote them to want to stay in Cleveland or to expand in the city. The core objectives of our BRE program are aligned with a statewide standard. This is nothing novel, but it's important to note that we are sort of adopting a proven statewide model with how we're going about this. And I'll run through the core objectives quickly. Number one, uncover opportunities for growth. That's where we can generate leads and projects for the city. But the second part of that is identifying risk of closure or relocation as well. Number two, connect companies to our partners like Greater Cleveland Works, Jobs Ohio, the the county, Team NEO. So we're driving value for our partners as well by connecting companies to those resources that they may not understand how to navigate or even know exist. Number three, we're going to target our proactive efforts based on our highest performing industries. I've listed them there, but we kind of identified those as food and beverage, aerospace, defense, polymers, life science, and then generally advanced manufacturing. That's where we feel Cleveland has a competitive advantage for the foreseeable future. And part of our BRE efforts are going to be to, first of all, ensure that those remain our high-performing industries, but also the insight from the companies as to why they are our high-performing industries will help inform our attraction efforts, which will continue to sort of strengthen those clusters. And I know Jennifer Shield is going to talk a little bit more about that side of things. And then finally, with our BRE program, it's always about collaboration. And by that, I mean inviting our partners to the table when we're out meeting with these companies, like the county, like Jobs Ohio and or Team NEO, and our workforce partners as well. It promotes a good ecosystem. It sends a good signal to the companies that we are all aligned, and we're a high-functioning ecosystem. And then to kind of wrap it up, the benefit that this brings, that this sort of outreach brings to the business community is, of course, we can bring solutions, resources, and even partnerships that were previously unknown to the company. It's kind of, we see it as our job to understand how to navigate this complex network of resources, not the companies, and we're able to help make that happen. Secondly, we will be the clear entry point into City Hall for any future-related city issues. So oftentimes there's an issue, a company doesn't know where to begin. We'll make it clear when we engage with the company, we're always where they can begin. And then finally, we are meeting them where they are. We're seeing how their operations work in person, which gives us better problem solving and customized support by just simply seeing them and meeting them where they are. The benefits to the city are many. First and foremost, these meetings represent early warning systems that help mitigate or even eliminate the impact of a relocation, downsizing, or closures. So we're often made aware of an issue that might become into the forefront 2 years down the road. We have now that knowledge, and we can start to work to build the case or even eliminate that issue when it comes time to either make a decision on a lease renewal or an expansion. We are we can help companies facilitate capital investment by providing incentives. Maybe there's an expansion that's happening that we can flip it over the edge through public intervention. Of course, I mentioned generating referrals for our technical assistance and ecosystem partners. So we always want to drive value to the nonprofits and partners that work in this world. And then the direct insights that we gain from our business community are going to help not only strengthen our climate, but also improve our business attraction. And then last but not least, the data that we will gather will allow us to just better benchmark our local economy with state and national trends. Not to mention the cross-department coordination. When they bring an issue to me related to permitting utilities, it gives me an opportunity to engage with other sections of the city and promote a better kind of internal process. So that's kind of the high level of our BRE strategy. And then Jennifer Shield is going to talk more about how our business attraction strategy rounds out our business growth.
Thanks, David. Hi, I'm Jennifer Shield. It's nice to meet you all for the first time. I'm really excited to have this new Executive Attraction Officer role and talk to you a little bit about why we're doing it. So, I'm really glad David has hit home a couple times that, core to our business growth strategy, which includes retention, expansion, and attraction, is making sure the businesses that are already here are doing well. And why do we want them to be doing well? Why do we want new business just as a core objective that we all probably understand, but it's sort of a touchstone for us, is that more employee withholdings means more revenue for us. So that's about 63% of the city's revenue comes from employer withholdings. They also offer more good jobs. So this is being defined with Greater Cleveland Works, but also, really leveraging those that we want to model after. So, you think of those Jurgens who have second chance hiring and those practices that we're proactively looking for in the attraction strategy, but also looking to highlight in our current business base. It also provides a resilient tax base, innovative partnerships. So, of course, looking at where can we leverage some R&D resources as an attractive asset to a business that we want to, come complement a business in Cleveland. And then, rising visibility of our services, right? Attracting the highest talent, being able to execute on our infrastructure, on our objectives as a city. And why now? So we know why we're doing it, and why now. It's because this is the moment to play offense. We really understand, we've spent time understanding what our competitive advantage is and where we are competitive. So the industries that we talked about are industries that we really feel like we have a competitive advantage in. And by feel, I mean we have a data-based structure. We've looked at, the supply chain, we've looked at several supply chains, all the assets that we have to offer and what we do really well here. And then we've benchmarked that against cities that are competitors in those industries. And against those, we have a lower CapEx and OpEx. We have incredible talent and R&D powerhouses, stable business operations, both because of climate, but because of that lower OpEx. And then I'm going to end with sites. One, because we actually have sites now, but also because now we have the ability through this legislation to kind of see how a site activation from a business might fit into our strategic plan as a city. And is that the highest and best use there, or is there another offering? And what's great is that we could actually make that choice now. And this has been building up for a period of about over a year now of building a pipeline first. So we mentioned food and beverage manufacturing, also tech, and then under advanced manufacturing, that's where you'll see your aerospace and defense, your polymers, composites. So that's sort of the umbrella that we have all those industries underneath. And then building partnerships with local economic development organizations, but primarily with the businesses through this outreach, proactive business retention and expansion effort. We're meeting them together and sometimes separately to understand what is their supply chain, what's helping them make them more successful, and then modernizing the messaging. And part of that is just knowing what you are going to sell. Quote unquote. And I'll stop there. You'll hear me say that sometimes. We are not salespeople. Business development is matching a need with a solution, and we believe that certain companies will find their solution in Cleveland. So we're tailoring messaging that's been sort of out, maybe by Team Neo or GCP, several of our partners, and tailoring it for Cleveland. What is the Cleveland advantage? And then integrating themes from talent and tourism, a partnership with Destination Cleveland, and then delivering customized pitches to the company that we're speaking to and providing the solution for. And then, like I said, preparing the solution. So gathering the assets of our ecosystem, developing a predictable process, and then building the team in order to execute with excellence. And I want to kind of pause there on building the team. That includes me and David, but it also includes, you'll have seen those senior project managers, and Joe Rose really hit home that importance of the major projects and business growth being integrated. The reason for that is they really want to see, we really want to have an umbrella over the businesses as they come through City Hall. This concierge service of having one project manager who knows really well how we get through City Hall, but also has a great relationship with all the other economic development organizations and the asset holders. So, the sites, the state incentives, et cetera, so that we can layer these all as a single package so that they sing our praises, right? Because part of the business development process is this executing with excellence, right? And the ongoing relationship management, that's our BR&E practice, which is so important for our long-term positioning, right? It feeds back into Cleveland is an excellent city to work with. They're open for business. And that starts to feed our lead identification. And then as I identify leads with David, we go through a gate stage process. So there's about 3 gates and 3 stages that we look as we vet a company for attracting to Cleveland or for executing one of our incentives. And what that looks like initially is, you know, David gave some metrics on what kind of businesses we're looking for, the 10 to 100 million, or, you know, even the early 10s to the later hundreds. That order of magnitude is hard to get to, that growth. And so that's really where they're primed, like David said, for growth and incentives. So there are those metrics that kind of get us our first set, right? And then we start to look at some other growth indicators, but also what I call community enablers. So it's almost that pre-vetting of the CBA. Well, I want to see from them maybe some voluntary ESG, voluntary philanthropy. I want to see resident workforce hiring. That's what we're really focused on. And then as we develop a warmer relationship with them, then we sort of walk down what it would look like for them to land in Cleveland and how they would benefit our current business base and our residents. And then to capture, and again, I'm just going to hit home here, that's where that program manager, that senior project manager really comes into play here, is getting them through City Hall and executing with excellence, that concierge service. And I think I'm the end there. No.
One more slide.
Oh, one more slide? Did I? Sorry about that.
Just kind of click and come back.
Right on. So that is a pretty holistic look at the new Department of Development, right? And I think it's important and not lost on me, right? This isn't binary, right? We do have the ability to both reinvest in our neighborhoods and work to attract companies to the city of Cleveland. Putting all those tools in one place allows us to maximize the ability of all of them and truly unlock potential. You know, I think important as we go through this, again, we just want to hit like, what does this legislation do, right? Like ultimately renames Department of Economic Development into a Department of Development. It does amend those powers of directors, which really is a land bank functionary that sits on here. It allows for transfer of land into the right land bank as it moves forward. It allows for the transfer of these 18 positions with their federal funding sources, right? So we're minimizing impact to the budget, and it creates that new head count today so that we can start marketing for the land strategy deputy director. Again, what this does not do, right? This does not change land bank policy. This does not change or remove council oversight or authority on any of those issues. All we're doing is picking up employees from one location today, putting them next to employees that do similar job functions, which both create some efficiency, but also really unlocks the power of what they're able to do together. Again, from a sheer budgetary standpoint, you've got those 5 new general fund positions that are coming. It ends up being about a $700,000 impact on the budget. For whatever it's worth, Ms. Andruski, how much did Land Bank generate last year?
Last year, I don't,
Or
I'm sorry.
roughly?
Sorry, Chief. I have those numbers. I don't remember last year, but right now we're on track for generating $600,000 in revenue.
Right. So again, this is all we're doing. We're picking up like employees. We're putting them next to each other in a way to really be able to drive things forward. Welcome any questions you guys have here for anyone in the team. I know this is a big change, but it's one that we feel is the right thing to do and something we think can be incredibly meaningful.
I'm sure you do.
Sorry.
That's my guy there. We all good, man. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chief. Sorry. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Director, and your team for your presentation this morning. A lot of information. As you know, we've been having many conversations around this topic here. Into the committee, Mr. Titron has previously emailed out to everybody a list of questions that were posed and responses, so everyone should have received that, include additional information he sent to you. We also included it in your calendar invite, so that way it wouldn't be missed if it was not seen in your email. So we wanted to make sure you had the information ahead of time, so that way you could be prepared for your questions and your thoughts. All right. For me, before we go to the committee, one of the things you talked about, and we've had discussions about, has been around making sure council is involved in in helping to flush out some of the policy issue sides, right? You know, obviously, this body can put forth its own policy directives to passage of ordinances and resolutions. But what I think, because of the change, it would be great, you know, as I've done in the past and other members have done in the past, is really worked with members of the administration to co-develop, you know, policy that can address some of the issues that we have seen over the past, and issues that, you know, I'm sure is going to come up, or thoughts are going to come up as we go through this presentation today. And council, again, and administration have worked well together on many issues, and I think this is one where we absolutely must come together and work with each other, again, to flush out policy issues and concerns, and really, and I think this can really strengthen the council and administration's partnership, right? It's, you know, with this work that's being that you're asking us to consider today. So. Just my couple comments. So, Chief, you know, my ask is, and to you, Director, that this body has the commitment of you, Chief, and Director, and your team to really roll up the sleeves and work with this body to further develop policy as related to the changes that you're asking us to make today, because this is a lot. This is a lot.
Yes.
You know, and you and I went around on this. Staff has went around on this, and I think that not everything, that we won't be able to anticipate everything through the work that the presentation that you've outlined today. There may be questions that come after this between now and finance of next week, but really having that commitment from your side to work with this body, and this body to work with you all to create and develop, you know, policy that will help, you know, make this transition the best that it can be.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. 1,000% you have that commitment. We have had some really good dialogue with Mr. Tatron throughout the course of this process, right? And I know that he has a whole whiteboard kind of filled, particularly with like housing policy and things. And I do think that that is an important part of this, right? Like that housing policy piece lives in the Department of Community Development, you know, right? And that's kind of part of the check and balance, right? There's a lot of things that we need to do that we make sure are working for empowering and improving lives of existing residents, right? And that this Department of Development can kind of carry forward. But again, we absolutely want to be partners with City Council in making sure the right policy is getting passed there.
All right. Sounds good. Because, you know, oftentimes, you know, one side or the other can put forward, you know, ordinance or, you know, create policy that may or may not be the best, right? But I think if we come together jointly and work on some of this stuff, I think it would be great for not only for us, but for you all as well, which ultimately is the best for the city of Cleveland. We talked a little bit about metrics as well along the way, you know, and measuring success, and you know, what are we working towards, right? And I think that is going to be, as we move along through this process as well, that's going to be a big part of this work, right? In helping us to, I won't say feel better about it, but but really, you know, understanding where we're trying to go. You know, get the presentation speaks to some of that, but really having a very clear path, right? And having metrics set. You know, a conversation that we've had with you and your team, also council staff has had with you and your team as well. And so I think it's going to be very important. I'm sure that's going to come up during the conversation here today, but I wanted to put that out there now. Those 3 points, so that way it is absolutely clear about what this body is looking for as we move forward. Okay. All right. Thank you. First, we have Councilwoman House Jones, and then Councilman Harsh.
Thank you. Through the chair to the team here, I just had a couple of questions First, I will start with the land bank. So, I've had this consistent challenge in trying to really think through how are we going to work on equitably selling, partnering with community members as it just relates to some of the pricing issues within the land bank. So that is not covered in here. That will be for another day and time.
So through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones, yes, that is correct. Today, we are not talking about changing land bank policy, right, just where it is administered out of. But I do think that this gives us a tremendous opportunity, and I know your frustration on this a great deal, but one of the parts that we covered earlier when we went through this was the fact that as you look at it today, property acquisition and disposition actually happens in 3 different places.
Yep, I was here. I
There are 3
listened to it
different
all.
ways of going through it. And so I think this does give us the opportunity to kind of create that commonality.
Okay. As a follow-up through the chair to the team here, I know there's a section that discusses business development. I guess I'm going to ask the question, what does that look like specifically for businesses that operate in the night, at the night, and nighttime time? What does that look like? I've had a conversation specifically about economic development comparatively to other cities that have a thriving nighttime economy. Many times I know our city doesn't have the strong relationships that is necessary specifically during the nighttime. And so I really want to hear, because didn't hear it, about what does that look like within this new vision.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I know that is something that is important to you, and it's certainly important to the team as well. Right now, the neighborhood investment managers are, building relationships with business owners, across the city and across the region, and are dedicated to supporting that group of businesses at this time. But I am very open to figuring out how to establish a dedicated person to that and addressing that.
Okay, through the chair to the team here, what does that look like? I hear it in words, but what does that look like? Because again, this has been years, and so I'm just, what does it look like? What is the timeline? Because again, many times, I'm gonna just say that. What is the timeline? What does that look like?
What it looks like to date is just, active engagement. In terms of timeline, I think in the next year, I'm.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
I think that's true.
I will
yeah.
follow up with this. Through the chair to the team here, based on this, and as you're talking about the neighborhood investment managers, what is the actual profile or overall assessment of our nighttime economy in the city of Cleveland? Those entities that are up and running, property owners versus management, what's the overall assessment of it?
So through Chair Councilwoman House Jones, and I know that we have had this conversation. So there is a position that exists on that org chart that is like a strategic projects manager that I think that we want to have really start to dive into this. This has also been, and I know as we kind of have this conversation, this is a large part of why establishing a system like Salesforce is very useful for us. Because as it stands today, there is no database of all the businesses, whether they're a small business or a major corporation, that we are talking to, their issues, their challenges, all of those sorts of things. And so when Salesforce is fully implemented and put in, which we expect to be done by the spring, right, then that gives opportunities for, and by the way, this is something that when you look at it, I'm not sure that there is another city in the country that is looking at kind of the, we'll call business retention and expansion at the Main Street level, right? But it gives these neighborhood investment managers, when they're having a conversation with somebody, to start playing through all those issues. I think that we have had conversations with you in the past about potentially having a full-time person that is dedicated to the nighttime economy, because I fully appreciate and understand that there are issues directly surrounding to that at times when people are not in City Hall. There is not a full-time person for that today, right? But again, I think we are starting to compile information from other cities that have done things like this, and what are the benefits, and how can we make that a reality here?
Okay, through the chair to the team here, okay. And I guess I would just lift up the idea, at least that I offered. I am not even saying that it is the right thing or the correct thing. What I'm saying is we need to address it. It is a problem.
Yeah.
And again, for the administration, after 3 years, not to actually have and be like, oh no, we're going to get to it. And I just need to know when, so I can level set my expectations. With the consistent, there's always things going on in the hours of like 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. consistently. And I'm not talking about public safety. It's actually economically of how do you work with businesses so that we can be preventative and have the things not just in downtown, but throughout the city of Cleveland. And for the administration in this whole reorganization to not have a thought to say, oh, it'll be a strategic partner, I just think it's a failure from my perspective, because it's always, again, as council members have discussed, it's always the priority of what the administration is when this is supposed to be a partnership, when it's not. So I'm going to leave that there. The other question that I do have is in regards to just overall, one thing I have yet to see, and this is something as we go into the budget, I will be asking every department and having real expectations that we will be able to deliver. What is the establishment of work performance and evaluation standards when it comes to this new department?
Yes, no, absolutely. We have spent a considerable amount of time developing KPIs for the team. It was, built by the entire team, and so, I think that that's a good way to establish real accountability and set real expectations. We worked with Urban AI to identify those. We're looking to incorporate those into the Salesforce platform so that we're able to track it in real time, and be able to really track our performance.
Through the chair to the team here, use the acronym KPI for people who do not know what acronyms are. What exactly is that?
Key performance indicators.
Thank you for that. And again, you said they are there. Where are they? Where can people see? And how can I be a person to objectively look at those things? Because again, like I said, in the city of Cleveland, Cleveland City Council included, we all need to actually get to a place of work performance and evaluation for every single person that works for the city of Cleveland. Because,
Through the chair to the councilwoman, transparency is incredibly important to me. Currently, they are in spreadsheets, but they will soon become reports that we will be glad to present to you, and in collaboration with Izzy, who's on our comms team, will be able to really deliver the message on our performance and how we're serving the residents.
Through the chair to the team here, and so what is the timeline to actually getting those things? I hear it's in spreadsheets. Yeah. I hear it's going to be translated into reports. What does that mean in the context this year, next year, 2028?
Yep. Next year, there are a lot of moving parts. I think this restructure, Salesforce, my team is meeting with IT and Salesforce reps 3 times a week for about for like 2 hours at a time. And so we're really building that out. There will be dashboards that track that for visibility internally. And so really my goal is to have that completed by next year.
Okay, through the chair to the team. Next year, when? I'm being very.
Quarter one, quarter two, 3, 4.
Yes, when?
I think right now, we're likely looking Q2, Q3. And I say that because Salesforce, that process is, it's a very, we're really trying to make sure that we cover all the grounds with Salesforce, and we're moving as quickly as possible. And a lot of the things that we're currently we're putting together to implement into Salesforce are things that, we have to develop from scratch. And, the team is, putting in the hours to be able to accomplish that with the timeline that we have projected.
All right, so through the chair to the team here, so realistically, we will not actually have a real gauge of work performance and evaluation standards that can be fully implemented for our workforce here in the city of Cleveland until 2027. I just want to be clear, because if you're still working on something, it's hard to evaluate what's going on here in the city of Cleveland. And I just, based on this new implementation that we're going through, so.
Well, through the chair to the councilman, I think that what Director Bordeaux-Small has said is our target. And it's true that the Salesforce build-out requires a lot of additional work that we can't necessarily estimate. I think the second thing that's important to note too, as it relates to the reorganization and the restructure, is that the combination of the restructure and Salesforce gives us an opportunity to level set again the metrics that we want to measure staff against. If we think about this as an analogy, if we have a multivariable equation, we got to solve for X before we know what Y is. And when we have both things in place, we can say that staff now have all the tools that they need to be successful. So these are the North Stars that we want to hold them accountable against. So for the Salesforce build out, yes, the goal is to have that ready by Q3 of next year. But when we think about the restructure and allowing that to have the time to settle, and have staff have all the things that they need to excel in their roles, it might be a bit of a longer timeline to reset those KPIs.
All right, and then just my final question, through the chair to the team here, as we are looking at this reorganization for Economic Development Department, what and how is the vision of community development in this? And that was the one thing I know I was, when I've had these conversations, I'm like, we have to do both things at the same time. So as there has been so much work that has been put into this reorganization of what is proposed as the Department of Development, I'm very curious as to what is a vision of community development where all things are not, I'm not talking about equal, but equitable, to actually have a vision, to have energy in a place, in an organization, I'm gonna say in the city of Cleveland overall, where I don't think this is the optimal work environment. So I'm just gonna be quite frank when it comes to the city of Cleveland. So how does community development play into that?
So through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones, I'm happy to start that and then open it up to other members of the team that I know Ms. Andreski, right, obviously is current member of that department. I said a little bit of this earlier. It is hard for me to fully articulate how much I care about community development in Cleveland. Right, it's I am somebody, I have lived in the city of Cleveland for most of my adult life. I live in the city's Buckeye neighborhood. I spent almost the entirety of my adult life working in neighborhood development work. And again, I care deeply about that. I've had about a whopping 7 weeks to dive into that side of the equation and working with that team to let them know just that the work that they're doing is critically important. There is a lot of really good stuff going on there, and I feel like there is a huge opportunity in this, what we're doing right now, right? By taking some of these bricks and sticks pieces out and allowing them to sit in development, really focusing in on that neighborhood stabilization aspect, focusing in on things that can work, whether that is home repair. I think some of that work that Aaron Miller Tate is doing that is going to be so impactful, and I think that gets to a lot of the policy side that you guys are talking about, whether that is financial empowerment for residents, wealth building through home ownership, the ability to focus on kind of land trust work. That housing policy side, I feel like fits really well into this and provides a nice check and balance in there. So again, I can only tell you that right now my conversations with that team are focused on the fact that like there is an opportunity. I feel like we are going to work very hard, and we're going to make sure that that rises to the occasion and that we really deliver. I don't know, Trudy, if you want to add something to that.
Yeah, I will say, so through the team, through here, care in words versus care in action are two totally different things. And my observation that the action behind the words is missing. And so I'll just leave here because we are where we are.
Yeah.
There is something to be spoken, which again, as we, Lord willing, in 2026, specifically working on like stress management, wellness as an organization.
Yeah.
Many times, I believe sincerely that the city of Cleveland is not getting optimum delivery for the team members that work for the city of Cleveland due to the amount of stress. The city of Cleveland not prioritizing wellness in a very real way. It is not just about fluff and duff, it's actually real practices. And I think uniquely positioned, the Department of Community Development has been in a realm of flux, stress, uncertainty that we as a city of Cleveland has not taken seriously, nor put in real practices to alleviate that, and in a context where there is no vision. That is my perspective. People can say something differently. And again, just my final question, through the chair here, has there actually been a level of like stress management for the people within the community development or economic development?
So through the chair to Councilwoman House Jones, first of which I would say that I have always tried to practice more than carrying words, and I think that if you look at the body of work that I've accomplished through the Department of Economic Development, there's been a lot of carrying action in terms of building a team that is supportive of each other, that has a high-quality culture, and I welcome you to have those conversations with anyone on that team. That is the way I've handled every organization that I have ever been a part of. In my brief time in this role, I have tried to meet with the full team of community development on a consistent basis. I've tried to let them know that we are going to figure out a way to work through this. I don't know what they have and have not done in the past. I do know that what you described is accurate, and we are talking about a department that goes back years of a lot of constant churn, change, short straws drawn, right? I am keenly aware of that. And as I have told them, I care about this in ways that are hard to fully communicate, and I'm going to do everything I can do humanly capable to like actually find a way to find the right direction and move that forward, and empower them to do that meaningful work, right? So I cannot answer for the way things have been happening in the past. I can only look at how we view things moving forward, and this is a huge focus of mine. As I have said at other committee tables, right, like I actually view this as my primary job. I did not take this job to be the top economic development project manager of the city of Cleveland. I did it because I care about these departments and I want to empower them to do meaningful work, and we are going to leave no stone unturned in finding ways to support the people in the Department of Community Development, as well as this new Department of Development, as well as the Department of Building and Housing, and those in the Planning Commission. This is hard work. Everyone who does public servant, whether you're an elected official in council or you serve on a daily basis, right, it's tough. I get and I understand that, and we are going to find ways to support our employees.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to start at the bottom of my questions and work my way to the top. And we'll end with the big one, and we'll get the little ones out of the way. On page 23, I think CapEx and OpEx is capital expenditures and operational expenditures. Am I correct? Through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilperson, yes.
All right, cool.
Sorry,
So
sorry.
by having low CapEx and OpEx, we're basically saying that Cleveland is a cheap place to do business with a low cost of living.
Through the chair to the councilperson, yes, but I think also it's the way we describe it too is also catch this while you can because we're growing. And so it's an invitation to move quickly, and we will too.
Okay. The council president just had a op-ed in the paper this weekend talking about the sort of contradictory nature of being the most affordable place with the highest poverty, right? We've got this weird sort of bookend problem where we, on the international scale, we're one of the most affordable places to do business in the whole planet. But we've also still got struggling with our population and getting people past the poverty benchmark into working class territory. So it's interesting position to be in for economic development. My next question, through the chair, Ms. Andrzejewski, I thought you were the land bank head right now. I'm clearly mistaken about that. What is?
Through the chair to Councilman Harsh, I'm the Bureau Chief of Neighborhood Revitalization, which oversees both the Land Bank Office and the Asset Redevelopment Office.
And so through the chair, have we had a director of the land bank itself since Mr. Giuliano left?
No. Lindale Hinton has served as the interim manager.
Okay. And through the chair to the chief director, is it still the intention to have a director for the land bank, or is this position now just sort of being folded in as a departmental function, or are we basically downgrading that position or incorporating it, or what is? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Through the
director.
chair to the councilman, we are going to have a land bank manager, but the deputy director of land strategy will be responsible for both land bank and asset redevelopment.
Okay, okay. And so then I guess my main question comes down to this. So it shouldn't be lost on anybody in the room. Community development is without a director right now. It is sort of a ship adrift. There's about 80 people that work on the floor above us, hello up there, who don't have a director, don't have a boss, and I believe you will be the person looking to find somebody to fill that role, correct? Through the chair to the. Yes, okay. So it kind of feels like we're raiding the kitchen while mom's out, right? Like, there's nobody in the house. We're going to go grab what we want. There's nobody there. We're going to bring it over here. We're going to put these folks where we want them because there's nobody there to say no. It kind of feels like, we're sort of raiding the pantry. And I mean, I can't ask a community development director what they think about this because we don't have one. So I'm not sure, like the previous community development director came down stairs to this room a couple years ago and said she had a good new reorg for that department. And then lost both those directors, those assistant directors, and then is gone herself. So through the chair, how do you feel like this impacts the future work of the Department of Community Development specifically, since they're not here to speak for themselves?
So through the chair to Councilman Harsh, I would say that one, this is not a decision that was made overnight. Right? This is a conversation that has been going on for the better part of 2 years, for the last year plus intensely, and there were many people, and again, I think Ms. Jones did a nice job of outlining all the work that went into talking to many of the employees in the Department of Community Development. I don't pretend to say that there was universal alignment when this idea was generated, that everyone thought, oh, this is great. And, as I look at that, sometimes it is very hard when you are giving up things that you care about to not see the whole of what you're actually creating on the other end of it, right? But what I would say in the conversations that I have had with the leadership team in community development, much of like I said, I think that there is a tremendous opportunity in this. I think that by kind of detangling itself from, right now, that department is focused on almost everything, right? That is because it is largely tied to the entirety of a funding source. And I think this gives us an opportunity to really focus in on things that, you know, again, it's like that neighborhood revitalization piece. Without it, like, we're not building anything in any neighborhood.
So let me change my question then,
Yes,
and
sir.
I don't mean to interrupt, but let me just get back to this sort of question at hand. Through the chair, when you hire the director of community development, what tasks are they going to have? What is their job?
Yes. So through the chair to Councilman Harsh, right, as I've said, that I believe that this is a department that will be, now one, I think huge caveat here, and I think this is the importance of finding the right person to come in and lead that. In 2026, we were going through the new 5-year plan for HUD, right, and the matrix codes of what you can spend the money on. So I think that we are at a point where somebody is going to come in and help determine that future vision. And I am very intentional of not stepping all over that, right? But undoubtedly, what we know and the way that we are marketing this position right now, right? This is a position that is going to be focusing on neighborhood revitalization work, that is going to have home repair at its center. It is going to have a lot of the work around financial empowership, home ownership, land trust work, housing policy. And again, that is so critically important because, you know, again, this is how do we set the table for what this Department of Development is actually doing. So again, I think that there is a lot in there. You look at all the different partner organizations that are doing work in our neighborhoods. I think that there is a way to empower the employees that are kind of essentially acting as program officers in that space. So I think that there is incredibly meaningful work for that person to do. But again, my focus has always been finding the right person to lead that work and then giving them the freedom and the flexibility of working with that team to build off some of the things that community development is already doing.
So, Mr. Chair, earlier this year, the entire Department of Community Development got the scare of a lifetime when the federal government decided to wait until the last day legally allowable on the calendar to determine whether or not to even fund them. And since 1975 or something like that, for a little bit longer than I've been alive, the federal government has distributed community development block grant funds, CDBG money, to urban areas, and Cleveland has received that money consistently, regularly every year for 50 years, until this year, when they decided to hold off until the last minute possible. And there was a lot of speculation, a lot of concern, and a lot of fear that that money would actually be withheld, part of DOGE cuts or whatever. Which is really difficult environment in which to run a department when, 90% of your staff is funded through that one federal source. It's really hard to keep. I mean, we had a problem at CDCs, Mr. Chair, all throughout the summer where CDC personnel were wondering if they should go find other jobs and like just gut the whole industry because their funds also come from the same source, right? And it's not lost on me how difficult that was on everybody involved. Especially as I work with the CDC to try to do a major development in the neighborhood, and you've got staff wondering if they've got a job. Of course, we all know that at the 11th hour, the federal government did decide to go ahead and reallocate CDBG funding for the entire nation. And it seems that means that the forecasters who said CDBG is too integral to rural and Republican interests for them to ever cut it nationally might have been the ones who won the argument, right? The people that said that there's just too much money involved in this program that actually affects Republican interests throughout America for them to even cut their own, they'd be cutting off their nose, right? And they won't actually do that in Congress. It seems like those people got the argument right. And so maybe we can expect them to be right again next year. And hopefully not wait to the 11th hour, but if they do, at least we've had a run through on how that works. So I'm asking this, Mr. Chair, because I'm trying to understand like what it looks like when we get a new director of community development, and through the chair to the chief, how does this interact? There is a proposed ordinance sitting in the box somewhere. The box, I guess, is over there now.
Yeah.
To completely swap CDBG funding and to change the entire funding environment for the city of Cleveland. How do you see this change to community development impacting that proposal that still might see the table again in the future?
Yes. So through the chair to Councilman Harsh, I guess that's a two-part question, right? And so the one, I would say, I will tell you the same thing that I told the Department of Community Development the first time I went down to introduce myself. And I did think it was important that when I took the job to go down and introduce myself to the totality of that department, I know what it's like to live in fear of that funding source going away. Councilwoman Spencer knows it, you know it. It's not super fun. But for 51 years, that has proven to be a very resilient funding source, right? It has gone down over the course of years, regardless of whether there's a Democrat in office or a Republican in office, and those are realities that we all have to deal with. But it has proven to be resilient for, I think, a lot of the reasons that you explained. And I think that over the course of time, it's going to be a very difficult funding stream to eliminate. As I also told the members of that department, let's be very clear. If $28.5 million eliminates itself from the city of Cleveland's budget, there's going to be pain, right? There will be job losses, not just in that department, but probably in other departments throughout the city. That eliminates funding that you guys have for projects in your ward. Like, there will be pain, it will be distributed, but that will not mean the wholesale elimination of a department. Why? Because there is critical and important work that that department does that is used to move neighborhoods forward, and that is not going to change, right? We're all going to have a very uncomfortable conversation if $30 million goes away, but we'll figure that out. So with that, again, I think it changes nothing because I don't anticipate that funding source going away, and that's not the way I live my life, right? And, again, if catastrophic events happen, we'll all figure out a way to deal with that, but that does not mean that those jobs are not important and that we won't, make sure that we're doing some of that work. The second part of your question related to budgetary swaps, I can tell you that prior to joining the administration, is somebody who is very involved in a lot of that conversation. It is easy for us to sit down and look and say that we're a $2.1 billion a year corporation, and we have roughly $9-ish million between council and administration that goes into funding these small organizations that are out there. And that should be very easy to swap, right? Theoretically speaking, I think that's the way we look at it. And I understand why we want to do that. It's the same reason that when we move the department or when we move the storefront renovation program from community development down into economic development, we didn't use CDBG dollars. Because using CDBG dollars for these very small organizations and all the rules and things is extraordinarily challenging.
Through the chair, how much CDBG dollars is spent in the Department of Community Development now?
Yeah, okay. The total budget is 28 point, roughly $30 million, right? Which flows through the department.
ED.
Oh, no, currently there are no community development block grant
Correct, that was
dollars
my
funded.
understanding, right?
Yes.
So under this new organization, how much CDBG money goes to ED? Through the chair?
Through the chair, that'd be about $1.8 million roughly.
Okay, so economic development currently uses no CDBG funds,
Correct.
but under this, it will get about 1.8 million, and CDBG will be redirected to economic development for the things being moved. Okay. And then, so there's a proposal, Mr. Chair, to swap out CDBG money with general fund to loosen restrictions on the community development environment, CDC environment throughout Cleveland, to allow them to do more direct service-oriented work to their neighborhoods without being hemmed in by the CDBG restrictions, which, a lot of people say are self-imposed, right? A lot of people say the city is the one actually creating those restrictions that corner people into very small opportunities. But the proposal to swap still brings merit. And I guess my question is, if it's all within the Department of Development and ED and CD are two sides of the Department of Development, is that how we'll look at this through the chair?
So through the chair to Councilman Harsh, no, there will be a Department of Development and there will still be a Department of Community Development.
Okay, so, okay. All right, I guess we'll cross that bridge later. I do have one last issue.
Through the chair, Councilman, I do want to say that it is already today that the Department of Community Development administers CDBG funds that are going into other departments, right? Cleveland Department of Public Health, that is not
aging.
a unique, right?
Correct.
That is something that currently does happen.
So my last question then, Mr. Chair, is about, directly about money. Section 5A, paragraph 8, which reads, it's underlined on our tablet because it's an amendment. So it reads that the Director of Development is authorized to deposit the proceeds from the sale of any property from the residential land bank property into Special Fund 17 SF 964, which will be used for costs associated with acquisition, maintenance, remediation, and disposition of residential land bank property, including costs for insurance and the activities related to the recovery of costs incurred on these properties. Further, funds received by the City of Cleveland from direct insurance claim settlements, cost recovery efforts initiated by the Land Reutilization Program for residential property, demolition or remediation actions as a result of the program, and grants, donations, or any other source pledged to the program shall be deposited into that same fund. So through the chair to the Chief Director, explain this to me. What is the reason for wanting to keep land bank revenue separate from the rest of the general fund in SF 964?
So through the chair, Councilman Harsh, I'm happy to start to answer this, but also I'm going to give it to Ms. Andreski, who has been living this for quite some time. Part of my understanding of this is that this is an anomaly that HUD actually hit us against, because currently those land bank proceeds are going into a CDBG fund, right, which you can't do. If you look at the Department of Economic Development's land bank, again, proceeds of sales of land that do go back into the fund. Again, those can be used for things like phase 1, phase 2 environmental work associated with making that land ready to go so that you can market it and again, lead to neighborhood transformation. And I think at the same time can go towards paying staff that are working on those things, which becomes kind of a self-fulfilling fund source. So with that, Ms. Andreski, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chief. And through the chair to Councilman Harsh, I would echo a lot of what Chief McNair said. We are receiving a lot of requests from residents who transact through the land bank for support on things like surveys, for support on things like assistance with site work to create more affordable housing development opportunities. And we have access to no funds to be able to think creatively on how our land bank proceeds can then help further, our broader city goals of activating that currently vacant, underutilized property. Again, it essentially mirrors the sub-fund that the Industrial Commercial Land Bank has and allows us to utilize those proceeds to further advance land activation.
So I'm sorry. So this sort of like butts up against the head of like buyer beware. We're talking about selling empty land. Do they buy it or they don't buy it? What is the cost associated with selling it?
So through the chair to Councilman, I think this is honestly, this is a large point of what we're trying to accomplish here. I think that largely the way that we have acted with our land bank is kind of buyer beware. Here's a random piece of land. If anyone wants it, there you go. What we're doing is creating a team of people that is strategically looking at land, that is finding ways to get it clean, so they're like preparing it for moving it along. Sorry, that was not. You guys know me fairly well, right? But again, I think that's a large part of this. That is a large part of what we are trying to accomplish here, right? Is looking at land more strategically instead of just saying, yeah, we can't on one hand continuously say things like, we have over 18,000 vacant parcels of land, right? Oh, what a great opportunity. We can't move them. Oh, by the way, this costs us so much money in mowing, right? Like what we're trying to do is figure out ways that we can actually move this land in ways that like moves our neighborhoods forward.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, we don't have a problem with getting rid of land. We have a problem with people wanting it. Right? I mean, like, the selling the land is easy. Sign up, here's the cost, write a check, it's yours. Like, the problem is finding people that actually want the land. I don't understand how this separation of like, okay, so we sell some land, we put the money off here to the side in this special fund, and that helps us sell more land?
Yes, I think that preparing land for development absolutely helps ease the
100%.
process of transactions and marketability. And I think I can paint another just very
Yeah, go ahead.
small, I guess, like neighborhood level example is for residents looking for a yard expansion, for example. We often have residents on both sides of a lot looking to purchase the same property. In this example, a resident, both homeowners are responsible for all costs associated with splitting the lot, recording that plat, and then consolidating the lot with their property on top of the cost of the parcel. So that's just another example of a way that it could be used, the fund could be used to support existing homeowners.
And through the chair, could somebody give me an example too of where a department sequesters the revenue from their activity into a, because I know like building and housing doesn't get their money back, right? Building and housing raises like buku bucks. It all goes into the general fund and pays for everything else. Like, can you give me an example of where a department gets to take the revenue from their activity and put it into a separate sub-fund that only they have access to?
Through the chair, I mean, one, there are a multitude of enterprise funds throughout the city, right? But like, I think it's also important to note that we're not talking about substantial amounts of money, right, that come through here. It's actually a relatively small dollar amount, and I think this gets partially to, you know, a Councilwoman House Jones's commentary of some of this stuff earlier. Like, you know, to me, the correct answer if somebody wants to invest in building a house in Huff is thank you, right? And so not being as constrictive, but like you actually need dollars to prep and make those things available. So again, this is relatively small amounts of money that help self-circulate and leads to better outcomes.
Well, so that doesn't answer the question.
So through the chair, I can also tell you that actually, yes, the Department of Economic Development, right, like in a variety of funds that exist in there, whether they are loans that are going out the door and coming back in. When we reclaim funds, they go back into those pots. Like we make money on those, that goes into a fees fund. Like, you know, ultimately, again, I always say if you strip that department down, it's kind of like a broke civic bank, right? But and this is in a similar manner. The goal is not to make and amass money. The goal is to actually improve outcomes in the community, and that is very challenging to do without being able to recapture, you know, relatively small amounts of money associated with this work.
Okay. And then through the chair, could you explain the direct insurance claim settlements portion of this?
Through the chair to the councilman, I actually don't have an example of when that has been something that we've gone through in the past year and a half that I've been with Land Bank. I don't know if.
Okay, and it seems like somebody wrote this very intentionally, Mr. Chair, and they're not quite right here to explain it. Like, it is a mind-boggling paragraph. Further, the funds received by the City of Cleveland from direct insurance claim settlements, cost recovery efforts initiated by the Land Reutilization Program for residential property, demolition or remediation actions as a result of the program, and grants, donations, or any other sources pledged to the program shall be deposited into a special revenue fund. Like that, somebody had a clear intended goal of what that paragraph meant, and I just wish they could explain it to me.
I think part of it is just through conversations. For example, when the work we're doing with West Reserve Land Conservancy, and they are taking vacant lots and they're doing work with them as well, right? Groups like that or other groups go out and they raise money to do work on these land bank lots, right? You know, just like now we have to apply, council has to get authority to accept any grants or donations or anything of
Right.
value, you know, for
But not
items.
with this paragraph. We don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
They
if it's-
have the authority to just do it.
If it's something related to a vacant lot, for example, if somebody wants to donate a bench to us, right?
Yeah.
Or we had an organization, we get these corporations who come and say, hey, we want to come in, we want to fix up this lot, or we want to give the land bank $5,000 because we're next door. We don't want to do the work, but we're next door. Here's $5,000 land bank. Can you beautify this lot so it doesn't make our property, our entrance look too bad, right? So that gives the department, the land bank area, the ability to kind of have those discussions, do those type of things on the vacant lots that exist in the city. Again, this does not give them authority as relates to anything that has a structure on it. This is purely a vacant lot. This is also the same authority that the commercial land bank has as
Right.
well. It mirrors the commercial land bank that already is in existence, so he can't, well, she can, but before he could, have the ability to do some of the work on those vacant commercial parcels, accept a parcel into the land bank, and also make other decisions. So this, again, I believe that this, through my conversations and staff, that this mirrors that commercial land bank piece. Am I correct?
That's
Through the chair, you're correct.
All right. So, you know, first glance, had the same thought. As I kept thinking, I said, wait a minute, we do this already with the commercial, and understanding kind of the work that other entities are now coming to the city to help us do, it makes sense for you know, quick turnaround, small dollar enhancements of vacant lots that, in my opinion, does not need to be a burden of this body. Maybe we add some in there, you know, if there is any gifts or grants or whatever, that the council be notified, in a particular ward councilman, so that way at least this body doesn't know if there's any awards that are made to the land bank as relates to beautification, upkeep of these vacant lots. Just my thoughts. Chief or Director or Trudy, you want to add in? I'm not going to pronounce your last name. I always mess it up. I always mess it up. I always mess it up.
Yeah, through the chair, the only thing I'll add is it really addresses our desire to be more proactive, right? I think that, you know, not doing anything and waiting for someone that wants it and not touching it will not allow us to really move the parcels in a strategic way.
And if you mind if I could.
Yeah.
And one of my thoughts on this too was, you know, I know several different times in my own current ward where you had two seniors on one side of a lot. They both are good friends, they agree, but they're on fixed incomes, right? And they just couldn't afford to make that happen. Or they were able to come up with a third of the cost, but they didn't have the funds to do that. And the land bank was, you know, very sympathetic, but it's like, Councilman, is really, we have no authority, no ability. We don't have a way to do that, right? And you know, those situations are real, and that's just one example, right? I also would say that that's a great example, absolutely. And so, even where we have folks who are using, you know, East Cleveland had put those wood bollards all around their lots, right, when they started doing a lot of demo work there. And folks would say, well, the folks, if it's a place where we have, I have one example where we've had a high drug activity between myself and Conwell's ward, right? They're driving completely through the lots, right? Completely through the lots. They're running from the police. I mean, it's all kind of everything going on, right? And all four residents who live on both streets, on both sides of these lots, there was nothing that we can do except for asking Public Works to come bring a tree that has failed somewhere and put it in between the lot. Now, at that point, it becomes unsightly, it becomes overgrown, right? And it looks just a mess. But there's ways that we can have resources to do other interventions on some of these lots. And that's just looking at these small residential lots. We're not talking about the larger lots that are developable, right? Across the city that, some funds that we generate can be used to support the enhancements of them, in addition to other grants or awards that we receive, through philanthropy or through other organizations across the city. So just my thoughts.
No, Mr. Chair, I appreciate all that, and I do understand the value of making land attractive to new owners. In the residential side of this, we deal with the costs that developers have to pay just to connect to city services, and it's something the city requires them to do, and they put the cost. $600,000 wouldn't really get very far in most of those discussions. And through the chair to the chief, is the finance director okay with the increased budget request that the Department of Development is going to have to make in the upcoming budget cycle to cover all of this?
Through the chair to Councilman Harsh, yes, there have been extensive conversations, and this is, again, part of the citywide strategic plan, right? And that is a primary reason
Okay,
for that.
then I'll just put a bow on it this way and let, through the chair to my colleagues, let you all decide how you want to proceed here. I would suggest that we strike Section 8, send the money to the general fund, and then allocate the money back during the budget to the department for land use and reutilization in their department. But that way we can monitor the amount that comes in every year, we can monitor the amount that they're spending every year, and just make it part of their allocation for their budget for that department, rather than create new sub-funds that then become, untouchable moving forward. If somebody wants to motion for that, I'll second, but if I'm on an island, I will happily stay on my island.
And thank you, Councilman. That discussion has come up in the past with the law department, and the law department has given their opinion that, based on ORC, that the funds and proceeds has to go to a separate designated fund and cannot be simply deposited into the general fund. We have that information here that Mr. Berdovich from the law department had given us, and again, when this came up, because it started as an issue with HUD.
I forgot about that.
But where does it go now?
It started.
Where does it go now if it has to go to a fund that hasn't been created yet?
So that's the creation of the special, well, I don't know, what's the numbers? Whatever the special revenue fund that's going to be created and set up for the department. If it continues to sit operate the way it is in CD, we are continuing ourselves to be at risk with the funding that we are receiving from HUD. That is part of the reason why, this is included, so that way we can not have that liability exist that we currently have, which is, again, that's what led us here, because of the HUD saying you cannot continue to do this. This is not allowable, and if you continue to do this, then we will come down on you. And so, in an effort so they don't come down on us, that we can be in compliance, this is the way that this is the way that folks believe that we get into compliance. But getting into compliance also has another stipulation that does not allow us to simply add these to a general fund, that these be held in a separate designated fund specifically for land bank use, similar as we have with other special revenue funds or enterprise funds that is not simply rolled into the general funds budget.
Thank you.
That's the last line in that message that says specifically that. Now, we can object, we can disagree with the law department's opinion, but the law department has given us that opinion. You are not alone on the island as it relates to why do we need to do that and why was that the case, right? The question was asked, obviously, it was asked very early on. So,
Yeah, back in May.
Yep. Any other thoughts, Councilman?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Harris. Always great questions. Councilman Slife? Oh, I'm sorry. You had me. Slife and then Spencer.
I'm happy to let Councilman Spencer go first if you'd like. Okay. I don't think I'll be too terribly long. And not to continue to beat the dead horse on the land bank. And I will acknowledge that I have very few land bank lots, so I am kind of rusty on the day-to-day functioning of the land bank compared to where I was a number of years ago when I sat in directly on the disposition meetings. I'll only say that the land bank provides a great opportunity for catalytic development and for large-scale projects, but arguably in limited scenarios given the scale of land that's within the land bank. Most of it is a lot here, a lot there, maybe a couple lots, and it's not going to, or it's not in the right location for like an apartment building, a LIHTC project, something like that. I only say it because I don't personally have any apprehension to proceeds staying within the land bank and making that office more durable. I only would become concerned if the incentive to get that funding is such that we are failing to do what we have in the past, which is basically give the resident next door a $100 side yard because it's more cost effective for us to just offload the property than to continue to spend money year over year mowing the lawn. So I just want to make sure that we're not overcorrecting and failing to dispose what is probably 90% of the land bank, which is that there's not currently development pressure in the neighborhood for a new home to be built, and it is not going to be an appealing site for anything other than a single-family home. Ergo, let's try to go for a side yard. Leaving that aside, you know, through the chair, the director had indicated kind of the historic fact that ED was spun out of community development. Building and housing was also spun out of community development. And the community development corporation network really came into being decades ago as a response to this building being unable to efficiently and effectively meet the hyper-local community development needs of neighborhoods. I want to be very clear that what I'm saying here, I'm not looking to insult or cast a negative light on any person or department, other than to say that the evolution of community development over time has essentially gone from being community development in the broadest definition of the sense into being the Department of Community Development block grant. And my time with the city began in 2012 when I essentially had your role, and Trudy followed a couple years after I did. And it always struck me that there seemed to be a lack of a cohesive mission statement for the community development department, merely because it was so tied to community development block grant that it was seeking to just achieve whatever we could achieve under community development block grant. And I think that Councilman Harsh's questions about what the next steps for community development will be should this legislation move forward is very valid, and especially given the introduction of 854-2025, the legislation to move community development corporations away from block grant, which I support for a number of reasons. My question to the director is could you, I guess it's not a question, it's been asked, but could you just, I would like for you to expand more on what the role of community development is, especially since Councilwoman, I have a joke about having like the Department of Development and the Department of Community Development is sort of like they're being like Jones and House Jones. Like it's like people like it's, the other thing that I'll add is
Two different worlds.
If 854 passes, we theoretically could use our community development block grant dollars to repair roads and sewers, which is not what we think of as traditional community development work, but and there would still be a need for those contracts to be monitored. So I'm trying to understand what will remain the ecosystem of community development work within the city of Cleveland. And is the Department of Community Development the correct name for whatever that workload is going to be moving forward, or is it just confusing to have two departments that the layperson would think are accomplishing the same work? One is developing the community and one is doing development in the community.
So through the chair to Councilman's life, one, I had an interesting conversation with Linda Warren, who many of you know, not that long ago, when she was the director of the Department of Community Development. They had over 400 employees in that department, right? And that is the totality of all those different things that you talked about. For whatever it's worth, yes, I have. We've tried on for size some different names for that department, but again, I think to me the most important part of this is finding the right individual to come in and help lead a lot of that transformation work. And for whatever it's worth, of the things that I really like about the budget swap, and again, I cannot say this enough, like that would require us actually identifying and finding ways to utilize those dollars in other places and make that swap work. But I think it opens up a lot of interesting possibilities, and I can only say that through the lens that I know well over the course of my time of using community development block grant dollars out in that ecosystem. I received $205,000 from Councilman McCormack to support our work. I received $5,000 from Councilwoman Spencer to support that work, right? And if you look at the contract of the widgets that we produced, and we would produce them, right? But it was like a handful of porch repairs and, home repair projects and things of that nature. And nowhere in that contract did it say that we were running a youth rec league for over 1,800 kids throughout the community, 54% of which were receiving financial aid to move forward. That financial aid was our organization doing that. Nowhere did it really talk about the 9 different block clubs that we supported on a consistent basis. Did not talk about the work that we were playing a meaningful role in supporting of keeping a 23-acre riverside hillside from collapsing into the Cuyahoga River and turning it into a 23-acre waterfront park. All the technical assistance that we do, that stuff wasn't really captured. And I think that if we can figure that out, again, big if, I think that opens up to a really fascinating possibility of these groups applying for dollar allocations for operating support that says, here are all these things that I am doing to move your neighborhoods forward, right? Like, here's a way that we're competitively analyzing that. And again, I think that then kind of turns this department into more program officer type work for the neighborhoods of which they serve, which I think could be incredibly compelling, which is why I continue to say there's already really great and impactful work happening in the Department of Community Development. I view this as an opportunity to really start to think differently about how that works and try to break down this Department of HUD mentality that has existed up there for far too long. So again, I welcome that, and right now the focus is on who is the right person to lead that work and work with the team in place up there.
Thank you. And I know we're deviating beyond what the specific presentation is. We're asking a lot of questions about the elephant in the room. I will say I understand and am supportive of the streamlining of comparable work across the building into a more strategic system. So you've got me philosophically. Perhaps a little bit more information on CD, especially CD. What does CD do if 854 doesn't move forward? Yep. What does CD do if 854 does move forward? Would be helpful to this body to make us understand what remains of CD and how can it be effective. I'll end with I think the answer is that there aren't any concerns here, but I want to just be stated openly and publicly. How many employees would lose their role if this legislation moves forward? How many would there be layoffs? Are there jobs on the line?
So through the chair to Councilman Slife, no.
Are there any collective bargaining consequences?
No.
As you are, I would assume, what is currently economic development is inheriting people who are in bargaining units, which I don't think ED has any. Maybe there's got to be some.
Through the chair, Councilman Slife, the answer to that is no, which is, kind of, I think we tried to articulate that right in the one slide, right? Where it's really, we're taking the office, the Housing Development Office, the Asset Redevelopment Office, and the Land Bank Office, and we are essentially picking up and changing where they're administered from.
Okay.
That's it.
I'll just close by saying my introduction into City Hall was through economic development with Dave Lucas, and it was a fascinating place to learn where things are kept and how things work at City Hall, and it is very unintuitive for a new employee to figure out what department's in control of a piece of property or how to dispose of real estate, or so the level of confusion that people see externally is also faced internally.
Yes.
And I'm very optimistic that this can be a more effective way for us to meet the development needs of our community, especially those that are in neighborhoods like where most of us represent, which are not seeing the large-scale development pressure, interest from outside players, and there's a lot of proactive work we need to do to foster that excitement to move neighborhoods forward. So, thank you.
Thanks. Councilman, and I also share, and council staff asked some of the similar questions. And I would say that the folks who are coming from Trudy's shop and the other division in CD will still interact with community development. It's not that, it's just where they're housed and administered from to have, I would, for the lack of a better term, a higher level oversight and engagement and support, that maybe CD doesn't have anymore because of the, maybe because of the exit of other folks who was there, right? But you do have some expertise and other folks who are in ED that can support those two divisions. But the intent, if I'm correct, Chief and Director, that the new areas that you're bringing from CD will still interact with CD. There will not be a separation, complete separation, but merely about where they're housed and the oversight of the work that they're doing, correct?
To the chair, yes, I think you just effectively described integrated development.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. In the other aspect around the funding, there's an MOU signed between the departments that, like we have with Building and Housing, Department of Aging, other departments across the city, that the work that these folks are doing will still be funded through CDBG. And there wouldn't be an additional cost to the department because the funding will still be coming from that source. And then there's another discussion asked about the budget. That's also partly, I believe, funds can be used from the land bank sales to support the staff of the land bank as well. So that is also one thing to consider. So I just wanted to add the 2 cents to that. All right. Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Chairman Hairston. We have certainly had a wide-ranging discussion today, very in-depth. Appreciated the dialogue this morning. So we've talked about the why, and we've talked about change management. I mean, it is, I think, from our side of the table, you had a big CD reorg, you had the ED reorg, and now it's another shift. So I'm not in your shoes, but I just can only imagine that staff will need a lot of support, even though this is exciting, right? You need, change management is a thing. So, but I do understand the why. And I want to get to my questions here, and apologies if any of this is repetitive. Briefly, can someone recap for me through the chair, what are the 5 new budgetary positions that are funded from general fund? I know one is the Deputy Director of Land Strategy. What are the other 4? That are the new general fund asks?
There are, through the chair, Councilwoman Wright, so there's the deputy director, there is a new GIS specialist that would join this mix. There are 2 in the accounting side of things, right, that come through there.
And then the real estate.
Oh, and the troubled property real estate analyst.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And the red, sorry, you should have said,
Yes.
look at the red boxes.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. But so then a follow-up question through the chair is the deputy director position is replacing director's former position, right? The new deputy director is the position that Director Small formerly held. Is that accurate through the chair?
Myself?
Yes.
Through the chair, no. The new Deputy Director of Land Strategy will be responsible for the new land strategy team that's coming and being formed. So they're going to be responsible for land bank and asset redevelopment.
Correct. Can you go back through the chair to the other slide? There was one that showed, maybe it was assistant director. I can look on my own tablet. I'm sorry, y'all. Yeah, it says deputy director. Page 17. Go back, maybe. Or go. There you go. So that red box, deputy director, which role is, oh, that is the deputy director of land strategy. Okay, I'm back on board. Got it. All right. Thank you for clarifying all of that. And then through the chair, who is the current assistant director?
Through the chair, I am.
Oh, you're nice.
No, I need to hire a replacement.
All right. Okay,
To
that
replace
clarified
myself.
that.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and this is a relatively minor question, but I think it goes to my curiosity about the change management. You all just ripped your offices apart there in ED. You were orphans you were in the ground level, are calling it the garden level now,
Garden level.
for a long time. Totally redid that space. Spatially, how will this new team be situated, and then all these synergies built from that point of view? Through the chair.
So through the chair to Councilwoman Spencer, yes, I have a lot of great memories of room 6 in the garden level. It was really, really nice. Great accommodations. So this is something we're having a lot of conversation about. Obviously, we cannot fit all employees with this within room 210 on the second floor. And so, having a very engaged conversation with Chief Teeuwen and the Office of Architecture as we think through space needs, and obviously looking at opportunity here. The third floor has needed reinvestment for some time anyway, and so we're currently taking a look at like the best way to staff this. Obviously, there are parts of the second floor that I think from a sheer functional perspective makes sense to have some staff there. So we're looking at a handful of different options.
Okay, busy times. Thank you for that response. And I think, Mr. Chair, I really, given all the discussion that's already happened this morning, just had one more question, and it was actually directed to Ms. Shield through the chair. You're a brand new position, and what is your background and what brought you to this position through the chair?
Thank you. Through the chair to the councilperson. Thanks for the question. So my background in the last 15 years, I was in the private sector supporting defense and aerospace. So I provided professional services. My organizations that I worked with, I started at a company called Booz Allen Hamilton and then worked my way into some small businesses, but supporting the big five, so Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and also NASA headquarters. I chose to, in 2023, redirect my career. I took an executives fellowship that matched executives from the private sector with local governments that had a need in their areas of expertise. And I took that because I really was kind of sick of making people who are already millionaires more millions. And I wanted to look at redirecting my expertise for Cleveland. So when there was that need and I had that recruiting mechanism, I took it. And I had a very challenging and very exciting and fun year. When this position was offered to me, I was very excited to continue that work and actually be able to execute on some of the analysis that I did.
Thank you. And through the chair, your position is called Executive Attraction Officer?
That's correct.
And is this a brand-new position that has not existed at the city before, through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, that's correct.
Okay. And so I'm affirming, I appreciated the conversation Mr. Lucas shared about retention and expansion of existing, and I know we've been doing that work. Given that the attraction piece is new, how will it collaborate with other agencies or organizations that I believe are active in that space? Tell me more about that, through the chair.
Through the chair to the councilperson. Other organizations in our ecosystem are newly doing business attraction. Prior to this analysis and this dedication to attraction, there was only about a half of person in Cleveland dedicated to business attraction through what we through other economic development organizations. They were primarily focused on business retention and expansion. Now there is a renewed focus throughout the ecosystem on business attraction, and we are aligned very closely. So there was a slide earlier where we talked about building partnerships with those EDOs, and part of my work during my fellowship was working on those relationships to build that practice. And also earn some trust. So, David and I talk about not only just trying to be transactional with them, but then also, together layer what we can do together with them and provide some early conversations so everyone can sort of ready their assets.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just, take a moment of privilege as an outgoing public servant, at least for now. You know, those of us who have it in our blood, sometimes we come back in different ways to serve the public. But as an outgoing public servant, really just want to thank you all. These are tough jobs. Change is challenging. And thank you for your commitment to the city, truly. Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Chair. All right, thank you, Council. Any other questions from the committee? All right, just as we look at these amendments, there's, maybe Law Director can help us understand, so, oh no.
So, Mr. Chair, if I
Right,
may.
it had us make the change here, then further change the change in the first amendment. So, in the first amendment, it says in section 5 as amended, 183.02, B9, line 7, after paid for by strike fund 17 SF 965 and insert special revenue fund number 17 SF 965. But then the second one says in section 7, line 1, and in line 5, strike 17 SF 965 and insert 17 SF 964. So is it 64 or 65?
Or is it both?
Or is it both? And if it's both, what's the other? Because nobody told me that.
It looks, Mr. Chair, like we're making Fund SF 965 a special revenue fund, an SRF fund.
But that's 4, though. So does 4 need to be 5? Why would it have the answer as 4?
964 is what?
Through the chair, 964 is the Industrial Commercial Land Bank Fund.
Okay.
Right, and so.
965 is the new special revenue fund.
So those are separate, because again, they are legally have to keep separate
Gotcha.
entities for residential.
So it makes
Okay.
sense, so the section 8 that we inserted on the land bank, because it's the residential is 6, they're taking out 6.4 because 6.4 references commercial, replacing with 6.5. All right, okay, it makes sense. And then in
But then we're
industrial,
striking 6.5 and inserting 6.4 because that's where we're transferring the money from. Is that line 4, section 3?
no, and so the commercial, it references 6.5, references 6.5. Because number 5 discusses.
Section 5.
Yeah,
183 to B9.
yeah. It makes sense now, which is, thank you for that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to point at you. Yeah.
B9.
It just looked odd, man, have it, because it first had 6.4, and then it further corrects itself. I think it's right now.
After line 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they're paid from. So, okay. In section 7, line 1. Line 5. Transfer funds from fund number 14 SF 50. No. SF 965. Transfer fund, okay, so we're transferring the funds from the industrial to the residential. This is 6.4 instead of 6.5, right? Because in section 7, line 5, it says transfer funds from Fund 14 SF 50 into Fund 17 SF 965. And we're saying instead transfer that into the industrial fund, 964.
Mr. Law Director?
Which seems like it's backwards. It should go into the residential, not the industrial. That's the industrial. This is the residential.
4 is industrial, correct?
4 is industrial. And 5 is residential. But we want in section 7, transfer funds from the industrial? Is that like the intended goal here?
Mr. Law Director, can you give us some guidance on this, please? Because I'm lost with 4, 5, 6.
That is, it's not intended to transfer from the industrial to the residential.
Okay, so section 7 reads that there is established special revenue fund 17 SF 965, right, which is the residential, subject to any approval required by law to be devoted to the process divisions of blah, blah, blah. And as described in section 3, that this ordinance and this director of finance is authorized to transfer funds from number 14 SF 50 into fund 17 SF 965, but you're saying make it 964.
No.
Right. So I think the amendment here is wrong.
Somebody. Chief.
Apologies. Through the chair to Councilman Harsh, I misspoke earlier. I'm looking at the original copy. 964 is the revenue fund that we are trying to establish, and
Right.
965 is the industrial commercial land bank. So
so she had
apologies.
So
for
flip those
that
around.
confusion.
So
Yes.
964 is the new one.
Taylor.
Yes, I know.
965 is
Can you tell us for the
industrial.
first time?
Okay.
No, you're all good.
So strike 965 in section 7, make
Now
it
it makes
964. Now we're giving it to the residential.
There we go.
Transferring funds from SF 50 into SF 964, the residential use.
Can you repeat that just so I make sure?
Yeah, let's get it right.
Handle on this.
No, we're here to get it right. We're in section 7, line 5, the very last line of section 7. Section 7 starts off that there is established special revenue fund 17 SF 965. Anyway, the last line, transfer funds from number 14 SF 50 into fund number 17 SF 965. We're going to make that 964.
Yep.
That's the correct change.
Correct. Because that's what we're creating.
Okay. It was just, we had it mentally flipped that's
Now it makes
industrial.
sense.
Okay.
Because if you look line B, and B is industrial commercial, so 6.5 would be appropriate for that. So it makes sense.
From, yeah, that's,
Okay.
Well, that's why I say it's from and paid for by that same number.
Yes, okay. And it needs to read what?
No, it's good the way
It
it
is
is.
correct, okay.
Because it clarifies, 6.5 is the industrial, 6.4 is what we're trying to create for residential. So if
Okay.
you go the first situation, item 1 is the amendment. This item, section 5, item B, line 9 is strictly related to commercial, and this number matches up with commercial. So now move
Okay.
on. In section 7, when you go to the last section here, it says in section 7, line 1, which is here, 6.5. What they did was they accidentally just used the special revenue fund for commercial, but it should be 4, which is what we're trying to establish, which is
Right.
residential. So that makes sense.
right.
All right?
I get it.
Yep. Sounds good. We're good now.
Okay.
And
All
then
right,
a
thank
new section 8,
Through section 8 that
Okay.
gives,
Director of Finance is authorized to transfer an amount,
Mm-hmm.
not the Director of Development.
right. Because finance is going to keep up with the numbers, not the director of development.
Right. Okay.
All right? And then the other two are just reading.
Right, and then just cleaning up the language.
The sections.
This is why people bring me a clean ordinance.
That's right. All right.
Do I need to read all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, given all that,
Thank
since
you.
it's already Tuesday afternoon and we have nowhere to be.
Thank you, Chief.
Through the chair, I'd like to propose the following amendments.
I got a turkey to put on, man.
You ready? All right, first one, in section 5, it amended section 183.021B9, line 7, after paid from, strike, quote, Fund 17 SF 965 and from, end quote, and insert, quote, Special Revenue Fund number 17 SF 965 and. Number 2, in section 7, line 1, and in line 5, strike, quote, unquote, 17 SF 965 and insert, quote, unquote, 17 SF 964. In both places, and in line 4, strike quote-unquote section 3 and insert quote-unquote section 5. Number 3, insert new section 8 to read as follows, quote, Section 8, that the Director of Finance is authorized to transfer an amount not to exceed $450,000 from the Department of Community Development's Fund Number 15 SF 469 to the Department of Development, or have a written memorandum of understanding from the Department of Community Development to fund the home program in an amount not to exceed $450,000, end quote. Okay. Number 4, renumber existing sections 8, 9, 10, and 11 to new quote-unquote section 9, quote-unquote section 10, quote-unquote section 11, and quote-unquote section 12. Right on. Number 5, insert new section 13 to read as follows. Quote, section 13, that this ordinance shall take effect and be in force on January 1st, 2026, end quote. And number 6, lastly, renumber existing section 12 to new section 14. Good? Okay.
All right, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, and going back to the ordinance, is there any additional questions, comments, or concerns relating to the presentation of ordinance, on the ordinance that we have heard today? All right, Director, Chief, as you heard, we expect you all to roll up your sleeves and work with council staff and this committee to work through policy issues, thoughts, and concerns as we move forward. And as you have given your commitment, now you gave yours, and what about you, Director?
Committed.
All right, Director and the Chief are both committed to working with this body to address policy issues and concerns jointly and not in a silo. Also work with each other to develop metrics, as we move forward with this reimagining of this, or reorg, whatever you want to call it, of the departments. Understanding that the asset redevelopment and major projects will continue to work together with community development as they move forward, and not completely be removed from that space and the work that the community development is doing. Very important that they have, continue to have some sort of synergy between the two, as they move forward, because that's the work that they've done all along. And I think that's all for me. If there's no further questions from the committee, ordinance number 1226-2025 as amended stands approved. Remember, this will go to
Mr.
finance.
Chair,
Yes.
can you just mark me as a no, please?
Please mark Councilwoman House Jones as a no. But remember, this will go to finance as well. So there's additional time. If there's any questions or concerns that come up between now and finance, please get those to myself, President Griffin, Vice Chair Santana, and Joe Titron to flush out any additional concerns or thoughts that you may have. Okay. All right. Thank you all. DPS is adjourned.